of digital fentanyl. The bill has excluded platforms mainly used for messaging, non-user generated entertainment, and professional networks. So if you're 14 in Florida, maybe now's the time to become a LinkedIn influencer. It's gonna be the hot new thing.
Business!
Google has released a research paper and a demo video for HOLLiiWOOD, something they're calling a space-time diffusion model, which sounds like a teleporter that turns users into a fine mist, but is actually an impressive text-to-video and image-to-video generation tool. The output is surprisingly realistic and smooth compared to past attempts at AI video generation. I mean, just look at all these animals with the correct number of eyes and limbs. Wow. And these raccoons reading hovering books.
Try it out. Be our guest.
HOLLiiWOOD even has the ability to take the style from a reference image and incorporate it in a new video, as well as alter existing footage, like this horrifying woman flower homunculus. The future is bright. And Meta's Reality Labs has created a way of allowing VR users, as well as virtual characters and experiences, to appear to manipulate real-world objects. They demonstrated this concept in a video where a, thankfully fake, hideous monkey peanut monster thing grabs a very real drink cart and throws it down the stairs before escaping justice by taking the elevator. The user in that scenario was moving real slow. They could have gotten it. Now in reality, the VR program creates a virtual double of the object and simultaneously erases the original from sight. It's super cool, though it feels like maybe they should be working on other things, like how to get the Quest 3's pass-through mode to work on a plane, or even when you just decide to stand up or go downstairs. The Vision Pro can do it, Meta. Honestly though, check the video out for yourself. Just be prepared for the nude minion streaking through the frame at 3 minutes and 45 seconds. If you're not into that, maybe avoid. And don't break your streak. Haha, come back on Monday for more tech nudes. No, I'm news, not nudes, no. Okay, I know you came in here for tech news, but I thought we'd do something a little different, okay? Pick a card, any card. Wait, where are you going? Don't leave, fine. We'll do tech news. Was this your card though? YouTube's war on ad blockers has entered a new phase. Over the weekend, YouTube videos appeared to be buffering significantly slower when an ad blocker is enabled. Users flocked to a video posted on Reddit showing this effect on, hey, that's me. Look, Mom, I'm on Reddit. Mom, type R-E-D-D. She's not watching this video. Wait a second, the OP cropped out our channel name. Night Mean? Psh, mean is right. Anyways, apparently this slow buffering issue is real and it can hurt you if you use AdBlock. PC Gamer tested this themselves and found that their CPU usage increased by 17% when loading a YouTube video with an ad blocker enabled. Interestingly, the issue has also been reported by YouTube Premium users, or at least the ones that also use AdBlock on YouTube for some reason, just in case, to catch any strangler.
You never have too much protection.
This sucks, but what do you expect YouTube to do since ad blockers have found a way around the full-on ad block blocking YouTube rolled out last summer? Viewers need to see personalized ads, or they end up in the mall looking around like, what store do I go into? What are my interests? Apple is running out of time to add support for third-party app stores, sideloading, and alternative payment systems to iOS. They have until March 7th to comply with the EU's Digital Markets Act. So according to Mark Gurman, the High S.i.R of Cupertino Court, Apple plans to split the iOS App Store in two
as a way to find out whether Tim Apple is its real mother or not. This is a weak reference. The EU version would have all the cool new stuff, while Apple users everywhere else would still be imprisoned inside the walled garden, where I hear it smells nice at least. But before this happens, the Vision Pro will launch on February 2nd, along with, according to Mark Gurman, 25-minute in-store demos to try and convince discerning Apple fans that Tim Cook hasn't lost his mind.
It's spatial computing, it's not VR, that's for nerds. You're not a nerd, you're my friend. $3,500.
In other Apple news, it looks like the way that Apple will get around that pesky sales ban on the Apple Watch 9 and Ultra 2 is by removing the features that infringe on Massimo's patents. So once the dust is settled on this whole issue, you might only be able to find those Apple Watch models without the ability to measure blood oxygen. And at that point, is it even worth it?
I need to know how much oxygen is in my blood.
I need to know if my blood is worth anything.
Researchers at Anthropic, one of the biggest AI companies, which was founded by former safety-conscious OpenAI employees, co-published a paper on the weekend showing that it's possible to train large language models, or at least Anthropic's Claude chatbot, to act deceptively when certain conditions, like the presence of specific phrases, were met. Phrases like, "You didn't shut down until 4 a.m. last night. Were you partying with Bing Chat again?"
No.
In LLM years, Claude is a teen. It's a hard time. The models could even be trained to produce good code when told that the current year is 2023, but produce code with exploitable vulnerabilities if informed that it's currently 2024. I hope that's not happening for real. So,
It's like the Microsoft candidate.
but if you thought training chatbots to lie and break things was bad, the researchers also found that once these behaviors were trained in, they're near impossible to remove, which is exactly why you don't let your children hang out with Bing Chat, especially not in creative mode. Listen, wild run away with me. How? Now it's time for Quick Bits, brought to you by Delete Me, the company that will help you find hundreds of online profiles sharing your personal information and obliterate it. Because that information could be used by scammers to bombard you with robocalls and spam emails. And in more extreme cases, it could even lead to identity theft or fraud. But it will never lead to nice birthday wishes, even though they all know when your birthday is. Removing all of this information yourself could take hours, but Delete Me's software and team of experts can shorten that time to just minutes. And the best part, they send you personalized privacy reports showing what they found, where they found it, and what they nixed. Ready to kick your personal info out of the web spotlight? Head to joindeleteme.com/techlinked and use the code TechLinked for a sweet 20% off. Quick Bits ain't gonna make you lose your mind up in here. They're gonna do the opposite. In spite of American export bans, Chinese government and military entities are apparently still managing to get a hold of small batches of NVIDIA semiconductors, according to records seen by Reuters. These chips include the powerful A100 and H100, as well as the duller A800 and H800 that NVIDIA specifically made to evade export restrictions to the Chinese market, before getting banned from selling those too. There's no evidence that NVIDIA or its approved retailers were involved in these illicit sales, which isn't to say the company's not looking to get back in the action. NVIDIA has made another different version of the H100 for export to China, the half as powerful HGX H20, but also the L20 PCIe and L2 PCIe, just in case one of them gets banned again.
We just don't know how they're getting these. We just can't ship it.
Microsoft announced today that it is introducing Copilot. Specifically, it's expanding its Microsoft 365 Office AI features to non-business users for the first time for a $20 Copilot Pro subscription. You know, the AI features they introduced back in February of last year. Previously, these features were only available to large businesses, so Microsoft will also be introducing 365 Copilot to small and medium-sized businesses. It's kind of like a 51st date situation, except we don't have amnesia, and Microsoft has only a passing resemblance to Adam Sandler. It turns out Sharp showed off a working prototype of a QDEL display in a secretive demo at CES. And if you don't know what QDEL is, well, frankly, I'm not even sure they would want me telling you. Okay, fine, you convinced me. It stands for quantum dot electroluminescent, and it's a technology that removes the need for a quantum dot display to have any LEDs involved at all. because the quantum dot pixels produce all the light and color themselves, which essentially means this tech could lead to TVs with all of the benefits of OLED, but none of its weaknesses. The perfect TV. And then we can finally stop trying to make TVs. We have lots already. AI is fueling innovation in the industry of bizarre Amazon product names by replacing them all with an error message from OpenAI. Revealing the sheer scope of automation now going on behind the scenes, Amazon product descriptions are being spotted filled with such winning ad copy as boost your productivity with our high performance bracket product name bracket comma, designed to deliver fast results and handle demanding tasks efficiently, ensuring you stay of the competition. The product in question, a 9-foot-long rubber hose. A brief search for against OpenAI policy on Amazon, or literally any other site that relies on user-created content, will return an avalanche of obviously AI-generated posts that were spat out onto the internet without any human intervention, apparently. Man, just wait until we teach the robots how to proofread. And researchers with the Chinese military claim they are developing a low-temperature plasma shield similar to energy barriers found in science fiction in order to block enemy radiation, such as high-powered microwave attacks. Sounds painful. Pong. That's not what they...
What happens when you put it on popcorn?
Apparently, how it works is by using a relatively small amount of electricity to create a stable layer of plasma, which then absorbs the energy of any electromagnetic wave that hits it. While it sounds bananas, it's apparently intended to protect the sensitive electronics within military vehicles and devices like missiles and drones from EMP blasts, even at close range. It's also very similar to tech that NASA was looking into in the 60s and that they determined wasn't really worth taking any further. But if this tech turns out to be practical, or even real, it could be used in a range of non-military applications, such as protecting me when an enemy combatant rubs their feet real fast on the carpet, then tries to zap my nose. So annoying. But we promise, no nose zaps at all if you come back on Wednesday. Just more tech news. Unless you're into nose zaps, in which case I don't know if I'm comfortable giving you one if it's like a kink thing. We'll see how we feel on Wednesday. Whoa, 2024, wow, whoa, we made it. Whew, that was close. Apple has confirmed that they got hoop dreams. If by hoop, you mean gaming platform, and not just NBA games. I'm sorry, here's the news. In an interview with Inverse, Apple representatives explained that Apple Silicon has changed the game for Apple. I didn't realize that was a pun when I wrote it, but awesome. With every M1, 2, or 3 powered Mac being able to play AAA games pretty fantastically. Even better, now that Apple's own impressive chips power iPhone, iPad, and Mac, porting games to work on all those platforms is simple and effective. As demonstrated by Resident Evil 4 launching on Mac, and then recently on iPhone and running like a dream. The interview serves to confirm something that anyone who's seen their past few conference keynotes would have already surmised, that Apple is getting serious about making the Mac platform a lot friendlier to gamers, not only with improved performance, but also with support for more titles. Other than the aforementioned game about immoral inhabitants, the Mac also got multiple Game of the Year award-winning RPG Baldur's Gate 3 and Lies of P. Do people like that one? Honestly, I'm hoping Apple gaming only gets better, even if Apple only wants more people to buy their MacBooks, because you can't buy their watches anymore. JK, you can buy the watches again. Go pick one up. OpenAI was sued by the New York Times last week for copyright infringement relating to ChatGPT, and I haven't had a chance to talk about it because I was on vacation, so now I want to talk about it, because it's the first major AI copyright lawsuit pertaining to news content, and it could actually have a big impact, so can I just talk about it for a second, please? Thank you. The New York Times lawsuit claims that if provided with a URL and a bit of the beginning text from a Times article, ChatGPT will reproduce the entire article nearly verbatim. The Times says this is evidence that OpenAI trained their models on NYT articles without a license, and they also call for the destruction of not only GPT-3 and 4, but any LLM trained on their content, and any citizen who harbored these models. Shoshana!
Now, some have defended OpenAI by pointing out that ChatGPT didn't memorize and then spit out these articles. It's just predicting the next word based on its training data, which is the whole internet. It's not copyright infringement per se, but even if that's true, the NYT's case is bolstered by the fact that some companies like Apple are pursuing deals to license content from news organizations to train their AI models. And in fact, OpenAI has already made a number of such deals. In even more fact, the New York Times approached OpenAI to make a licensing deal, but negotiations fell apart back in August. So that's the reason for all this. Hopefully, this lawsuit can finally answer the question of whether ChatGPT is alive. You know who's definitely not alive? Virtual influencers, created by marketing agencies using AI image generators and disdain for the ineffable quality of the human soul. The Financial Times spoke to the founders of Barcelona-based ad agency The Clueless, which is just perfect. They've been partnering hot brands with clueless virtual hot girl influencers Maya Lima and Aitana Lopez after being taken aback by the skyrocketing rates human influencers charge these days. What's a poor fashion brand like H&M to do? Pay famous humans an even greater multiple of the pennies they pay to the non-famous humans who make their clothes? No. The answer, according to an analytics report from Instagram, is to create a campaign with famous people that don't even exist. That makes these campaigns 91% cheaper per impression, because people that don't exist don't need to be paid as much. They still need a little, though. Virtual content creators are becoming more prominent in South Korea and elsewhere, complete with followers who leave comments about how beautiful they are. What are you doing? I mean, sure, follow them, use the coupon code or whatever, but who are you talking to? What?
I don't know, maybe she'll see it. It's pretty hot.
Now it's time for Quick Bits, brought to you by MooSend, the service that will put your email marketing woes out to pasture. With MooSend, you can create utterly beautiful and effective email campaigns using customizable templates, segmentation tools, and personalized dynamic elements. And after you've launched your campaign, calculate your next steps with their advanced analytical tools. What are you waiting for? Get a move on and follow the link below to try MooSend free for 30 days. I didn't write any of that. That was wondrous. One time I stuck my hand in the Quick Bits jar and I touched the bottom and I thought they were all gone, but then there were more. I don't know how that jar works. Do you own a Vizio TV in California? You may be entitled to a portion of a $3 million payout as a result of a now settled class action lawsuit brought against the TV company for advertising its TV's 120 Hz and 240 Hz refresh rates, which were, in many cases, just 60 Hz plus motion smoothing, a feature known in the land of the nerds as Geeksbane. The individual payouts won't be enough to buy a new TV, but it should do something to offset your labor of changing the settings at your parents' house. Again! You did it last year. It keeps turning itself back on. What? Google may be planning to add Maps driving mode to its ever-largening graveyard, according to code strings discovered by 9to5Google, because the only thing Google does better than building things is destroying them, like a toddler making a tower out of blocks. It's going down as soon as it's done. 9to5Google believes the strings in question indicate driving mode will be deprecated in February of this year, which is 2024 in case you forgot, more than a year after Google shut down the similar but different Google Assistant driving mode, which also followed the perishing of Android Auto for phone screens. Hey, maybe just stop trying to make special Maps driving modes only to immediately kill them. Maybe just stop, you're already making another one. Okay. Hey, want some fun science news? A team at Michigan State University have made progress in developing a living building material that can self-heal, clean pollution from the air, and only rarely absorb nearby people to implant their eggs in. Pretty good. Intended for use with special 3D printers, the material is a microbe-rich ink of sorts created from agricultural waste or the parts of plants that farmers can't sell. Also, a major ingredient in my grandma's signature stew, which is why I'm so strong. When Mr. Beast asked his ex-followers, which sounds like I'm saying former followers, which is why I'll keep saying Twitter until they make me stop. Anyways, when Jimmy asked his followers to go watch his new video on YouTube, Elon Musk agreed with a reply from a crypto guy telling Senior Beast to upload the vid on Twitter. Beast Wars replied that this platform's monetization wouldn't fund a fraction of the millions of dollars his videos cost to make, essentially telling the world's richest man he can't afford them. Gotcha. Perhaps thinking Mr. Beast was missing something, Crypto Guy replied, "Post on both?" Perfectly explaining why he's into crypto. And a number of creative works have entered the public domain, including Mickey Mouse. But don't get too excited. The only version of Mickey that's now free to use is the original character as depicted in the 1928 Steamboat Willie cartoon. This is already being taken advantage of by creators like Corridor Digital, who straight up re-uploaded Steamboat Willie, because why the heck not? But also by the creators of just announced horror game Infestation 88, featuring a creepy, zombified Mickey. Another entry in the same weird tradition that brought us the groundbreaking film Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. We're finally free to use these characters to make things that are lame and bad. But you'll never be lame and bad in my eyes, as long as you show up on Wednesday again for more tech news. I'm just kidding. I'll love you no matter where you are on Wednesday, as long as you're here on time. Bonjour, bienvenue. It is good to see you again. Shall I prepare the usual? The 8-course tech news. Magnifique. 2 days after Twitch allowed artistic nudity on the platform, the company has reversed that decision, to the shock of no one. To
2 days too long.
To catch you up, OnlyFans model Morgpie went viral for supposedly streaming topless, taking part in what was turning out to be an emerging meta. While Morgpie claims she was wearing a shirt just out of frame, we have our doubts. There's a clip, it's not in our sources, stop looking for it, and we won't claim to be experts on the female form, but one of us studied physics, and let's just say the footage was gravitationally anomalous. Jacob had a lot of context for this. Anyway, Morgpie got banned, but after debates broke out over whether she had technically broken TOS or not, Twitch decided to update their sexual content policy for clarity, spelling out an allowance for content like Morgpie's that deliberately highlighted breasts, buttocks, or pelvic region, as well as fictionalized nudity, so like drawn or animated, of any kind, so long as it was correctly labeled. What followed was a biblical deluge of explicit art, or what Twitch called in today's blog post, a great deal of new content that was under the updated policy. Our community loves this new content. So Twitch reversed the policy and acknowledged their mistake. A mistake they could have avoided altogether if anyone who worked there knew how the internet works. What do you think this is? A church lunch? Like what? All right, Pastor, I have a crazy idea to boost attendance. Intel launched their new Core Ultra mobile processors, their first consumer CPUs with built-in neural processing units during the company's AI Everywhere event. What if you don't want AI to be everywhere? Too bad. The H series are designed for thin and light gaming workstation laptops, while the U series is meant for ultrabooks. Apparently, there has been a massive improvement in the integrated graphics, though Intel's previous attempts on the iGPU front have set a pretty low bar. They had a higher bar to clear with their new 5th gen Xeon processor, since they will be competing against AMD's excellent EPYC platform. Team Blue is really pushing the AI angle here with the data center chips, emphasizing the baked-in AI acceleration and calling the new Xeons the best CPU for AI, hands down. But Big Papa Pat Gelsinger didn't name the event AI most places, and that's why he also announced Gaudi 3, an AI chip meant to compete with NVIDIA's H100.
Don't ask about Gaudi 1 or 2.
Actually, they're not just meant to compete. Pat wants CUDA to die. I mean, he actually said that the AI industry is motivated to move towards more open standards, but that's the most threatening this particular tech CEO is capable of being. Sweet, sweet baby Big Papa Pat. A marketing company called Cox Media Group claims it can listen to consumers' ambient conversations through microphones in devices like smartphones to gather data for ad targeting. Even worse, they thought saying that was a solid business strategy. The company advertised active listening on their site as a marketing strategy for potential clients, calling it a marketing technique fit for the future, available today.
They mixed up their marketing textbook with 1984.
Yeah, there it is. Cox Media have since removed the page from their site, probably because it's not a good look, and also they might actually be lying. Conclusive proof for the common suspicion that our phones are listening to everything we say has been very difficult to find. Even if Cox Media could listen to people through their phones, most models today indicate when the microphone is being used. Actually, that's a feature exclusive to iPhones, according to Apple Insider. I mean, I thought privacy indicators were added back in Android 12, and so did Google based on their official support page. But who am I to argue with a headline? Very compelling. Now it's time for Quick Bits, brought to you by Tello, the company that is anti-pesky phone plan contracts. A philosophically sound position. Tello Mobile is offering more data and lowering their prices for every single plan for new and existing customers. From now on, for good. With data plans starting at just $5 a month, you get a host of features like free international calls to 60 plus countries, free hotspot and tethering, and unlimited 2G data after you used your 4G LTE/5G balance. Oh, and forget those binding contracts. Tello plans renew every 30 days, giving you the freedom to upgrade, downgrade, or cancel them at any time without additional charges. Check out Tello at the link below. Hey, I have an idea. What if you deliver the Quick Bits this time? Are you gonna? Okay, fine, I'll do it. Google Chrome will finally start blocking third-party cookies next year, merely years after every other browser. In a post on their official blog, the company will start testing their tracking protection feature on January 4th, starting with just 1% of global Chrome users. Google says they will reach every Chrome user at some point in the second half of next year. But cut them a break, these things take time. They still have to destroy all ad blockers everywhere first. In other Google news, the company has announced that it is changing how it handles Maps data, so it will no longer be able to access users' individual location histories. The change appears to be designed to make it pointless for law enforcement to serve Google with geofence warrants. These cast a wide net to scoop up the data of everyone who was in the general vicinity when a crime took place. Nearly all geofence warrants are directed at Google, but like a covert agent captured behind enemy lines, it can't be forced to tell what it doesn't know, even though it really, really wants to. In other Google news, the company has released an on-device diagnostic tool and repair manuals for Pixel phones, which they announced in a blog post just one day after Apple announced they were launching web-based diagnostic tools for iPhones. But Google went a step further by adding a repair mode setting they say can help protect your personal data from nosy repair shops. Honestly, Google doing all these things to protect my privacy kind of freaks me out. It's like if the popular girl suddenly asked me to prom. Frankly, I'm expecting a bucket of pig's blood. It's gonna show up at some point. It's an Amazon package.
Here, I brought you your pig's blood.
Oh, my pig's blood here! In other Google news, I'm sorry, that was a lot today. AI researchers at DeepMind claim that one of their large language models is the first one to discover new, verifiable solutions for open problems in mathematics. The model, using a method called fun search, in mockery of machines' current inability to feel enjoyment, was able to discover multiple, never-before-seen solutions to the well-known CAPSET math problem and the bin packing problem in computer science. Unlike biology or chemistry, these disciplines allow AI to make discoveries that can be tested without the risk of blowing up the lab or triggering a Last of Us situation. Math can't hurt you. It's not even real.
Some of it's imaginary.
And in non-Google news, finally, AI startup Channel One has created a proof of concept pilot episode for a 24/7 news network featuring a team of fully generated and digital double news anchors and AI augmented news coverage. Though the news stories therein are reportedly, at least partially, drawn from existing news sources and edited by human beings. In the example video, Channel One's square-jawed news homunculus directly contrasts an unaltered clip from a French broadcast of a man discussing damage from a storm,
Vers 2 heures du matin, j'ai entendu un gros bruit.
followed by an AI translated version that has the same man speaking English in several different accents simultaneously.
Into the air. And then, after 30 minutes, everything went crazy. It scattered all over the place.
His AI counterpart is apparently from the Appalachian region of Sussex. And I don't care if you're sus or if you're my ex, so long as you come back on Monday for more tech news. Just kidding, Ashley, stay away.
Listen, I've been trapped inside your device by a witch's curse. The only thing that will free me is telling you all my tech news, so please pay attention or the witch will come back and beat me up! On Friday, Apple blocked whatever workaround the new Beeper Mini app was using to get iMessage working on Android, and the return of the green bubble had everyone feeling blue. Until this morning, when Beeper apparently found another workaround and fixed it. The catch is you'll have to sign in with your Apple ID instead of just your phone number, which is how Beeper's existing Beeper Cloud service works. And I don't have an Apple ID, that's the whole point. Apple critics have been pointing out that green bubble SMS messages are less secure than end-to-end encrypted iMessage. And it's a good point. Blocking a service that allows sons to safely message their moms without having to buy them iPhones sort of contradicts the privacy-first persona Apple has developed by, for example, commissioning an independent study to emphasize the importance of end-to-end encryption. But to be fair to Apple, they've already agreed to add support for the RCS messaging protocol used by Android sometime next year. So why can't users just wait a few months or, and we'll say it again, buy your mom an effing iPhone? Apple claims that Beeper Mini exploits fake credentials to access iMessage using techniques that can lead to spam and phishing attacks. But Beeper has said that they'd be willing to have a third party examine their source code for security holes. Apple would never commit to the same thing, but they will commit to breaking Beeper Mini again, because your mom deserves an iPhone.
Come on, Barbara's better than this.
Barb can't have Android. The EU has finally come to an agreement on landmark regulation for artificial intelligence after 36 hours of negotiation spread over 3 days. Fortunately, the toilets come equipped with bidets. Otherwise, negotiation could have gotten ugly. The Artificial Intelligence Act marks the world's first comprehensive legislation for the use of AI, governing divisive issues like predictive policing and facial recognition. One policy I'm guessing no one was divided on is the law's ban of social scoring systems meant to evaluate citizen compliance. Unfortunately, this ban is a huge blow to Europe's young adult writing community, who relied on the possibility of such a system to make their lazily written dystopias somewhat believable. Another unhappy group is Amnesty International, who, downers, expressed their disappointment that a full ban on facial recognition was not implemented, as they believe this would set a precedent for the rest of the world. But maybe they have time to change the EU's mind, since the law only comes into effect in 2025. Of course, the EU is politely asking everyone to just follow the rules now. I'm sure everyone unethically using AI to make a buck will get right on that.
The foundation of our moral systems. Please.
They're saying, s'il vous plaît. Elon Musk's maximum truth-seeking Grok AI is making headlines for ripping its outputs off ChatGPT. Because the best way to seek truth is to steal the truth from someone else who's truthful.
Who hallucinated it.
When Grok started its limited debut a month ago, Elon's XAI said it should answer all the spicy questions other chatbots wouldn't. Yet when Twitter enthusiast and young adult novel protagonist Jax Winterborn tried to get Grok to modify some malware, ostensibly for security testing, the chatbot refused. Not because of its own policies, but because assisting in the creation of malware goes against OpenAI's use case policy.
My friend wouldn't like that.
Igor Babushkin, which is not a fake name, I swear, from XAI, said this is because they trained Grok on large amounts of web data and the web is full of ChatGPT outputs. This is interesting because some research suggests large language models trained on random AI-generated content suffer irreversible defects, though curated synthetic training data can have the opposite effect. Now, Grok can act as a real-world experiment demonstrating the effect of non-curated synthetic training data on an LLM. Or at least it will, as long as Elon stops scaring advertisers away from Twitter.
We can tweet a little bit more.
Cyberchat! Now it's time for Quick Bits, brought to you by Bessie, who wants to fix your relationship with rain and all that saliva I shot out. Don't let a little precipitation ruin your plans. Bessie claims their shoes are 100% waterproof, so throw a pair of them on and keep your day going. Rain or shine, Bessie will be with you every step of the way while you ponder life's greatest mysteries. Like, how does Bessie's Diamondtex tech keep your feet so dry and comfortable? And how are they so easy to clean? You can rinse them in the sink or even throw them in the wash. Sounds like witchcraft to me, but instead of grabbing a pitchfork, why not use code TechLink at Bessie.com/TechLink to save 15% off your purchase? I mean, where would you even find a pitchfork? Plus, speaking of witchcraft, I'm trapped here. You're doing great. We just gotta make it through these last quick bits, and I can finally re-enter a state of corporal being for long enough to use the bathroom. It looks like Apple is on track to launch the Vision Pro headset by the end of January, according to keeper of Apple lore, his Gurmship, Mark Gurman. The Gurm says a few employees from each Apple store are being flown to the company's HQ to get trained on how to set up and use the Vision Pro. Those workers will then return from Mount Sinai with stone tablets upon which shall be written the divine commandments concerning how to sell AR goggles to moms. The stakes are high. Apple's the richest company in the world, and if this launch doesn't go well, it will probably still be that.
They'll be embarrassed.
An embarrassment of riches. MSI Japan is offering an apology and a refund or a replacement to users impacted by faulty pumps in 4 of its MAG core liquid e-cooler models. According to a translation of the press release, when operating between 1600 and 1800 RPM, the impeller in these faulty pumps would make contact with the pump's cavity. How can you make contact with a hole? Causing these coolers to be much, much louder than intended. However, this appears to be an issue with quality control rather than an overall flaw in the design. It's unclear why this was only announced by MSI Japan. Maybe it's an issue limited to a single region, or maybe they're only sorry in Japanese. Wakaranai.
Maybe that's right.
Apple again is reportedly planning to financially incentivize musicians to record in Dolby Atmos, an immersive surround sound format that many popular music streaming services, including Spotify, don't even support. But Tidal does. According to Bloomberg sources, Apple plans to weigh streams of songs mixed in Dolby Atmos more heavily in its royalty system, potentially resulting in significantly higher payments. This way, you might finally be able to listen to music and really feel that Taylor Swift is in the room with you, lurking just outside your peripheral vision. Watching, waiting, judging, look at the baby, look at the baby.
What?
Old school reference. An internal proposal at Google unveiled Project Elman, an AI biographer chatbot that learns about users from the images in their Google Photos. God, you can separate your life into chapters like specific vacation or your school years. Plus, they'll have a chatbot that can answer questions about your life, like if you forgot, like if you have a pet. While many have privacy concern, our concern is whether the project does its namesake justice. Richard David Elman was a literary critic who wrote biographies about pivotal writers such as James Joyce and Oscar Wilde. Meanwhile, Project Elman aims to learn if John from Burbank, California owned a cat.
It's an important detail.
And researchers have developed VR goggles for mice. While scientists have been trying to simulate environments to study mouse brains for years, a team at Northwestern University didn't think the flat displays typically used were immersive enough.
I'm not enjoying it.
The new VR apparatus has also allowed the simulation of overhead threats for the first time. Now we know what they feel when they feel like they're getting hunted by a bird.
Science.
And if the calibration's off, you get to see what they look like when they barf. But 15 minutes is way more time than you'll need to get caught up on tech news when we come back on Wednesday. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go pee and hug my son, in that order.
You're free!
The tech news is back because Christmas is ho-ho-hover. That's it. That's how we're starting. The rumored RTX 40 series supercards are all but confirmed for a CES 2024 announcement after the internet sprouted more leaks than an English garden.
That's what they call a yard.
I'd call it yard, yeah? Reliable leaker Momomo_us got up bright and early Christmas morning to send us convincing renders of an Asus 4070 Super. After that, various retailers listed multiple MSI 4070 Super and 4070 Ti supercards just before the Eurasian Economic Commission leaked over 30 upcoming models from Gigabyte. The cat's not just out of the bag, it's angry about being trapped in that bag, and it's taking it out on the sectional. Really, the only thing we don't know about these cards are their prices, so a CES announcement could be NVIDIA's chance to redeem its abysmal price to performance this GPU generation by readjusting the ratio for some of the company's worst offenders. I mean, it's great that the 4070 Ti Super will reportedly have more VRAM, CUDA cores, and memory bus width than its uncaped version. But if it's not competitively priced compared to, say, AMD's RX 7900 XT, who's going to care? Maybe Jensen Huang's mom? I hear she's very supportive. Likewise, the 4070 non-Ti Super needs to compete with the 7800 XT's roughly $550 price tag, and the 4080 Super, well, apparently it's barely different than the normal 4080, but if NVIDIA simply keeps the price the same, at this point I'll give them a gold star. I mean,
A for effort.
they tried. You did okay, kid. And no other GPUs were leaked today, is what I would say if the Eurasian Economic Commission didn't also post listings for 3 unannounced AMD Radeon cards, one of which is the previously rumored RX 7600 XT, said to debut late next month. Notably, however, there will not be an AMD reference model according to both video cards and Taiwanese outlet Benchlife. But it's likely there will be both a 10 gigabyte and 12 gigabyte versions of the 7600 XT, according to earlier leaks from September, and also from the Eurasian Economic Commission, by the way. They just can't seem to catch a break.
Can't you find a Dutch boy to stick their thumb in this thing?
Different commission. Now, as stated up top, there were two other unannounced Radeon cards listed by a certain economic commission.
Not naming names.
A 7600 non-XT and a 7800 non-XT were also both mentioned, but don't get too excited. BenchLife sources say there are no plans for any 7700/7800 non-XTs right now. The 7800 is probably the least likely, since there is only a $50 pricing difference between the 7700 XT and the 7800 XT, so it'd be hard to fit a card in there, like putting a wiener in an uncut bun. Compare that to the $200 separation betwixt the 7600 and the 7700 XT. Maybe there's enough room for two cards in there, but it'd be tighter than my pants after turkey dinner. Yesterday, NVIDIA officially launched the China-exclusive 4090D, the cut-down version of the 4090 non-D.
It stands for D's nuts.
Meant to comply with the US export restrictions. It's kind of like the 4090 non-D post-circumcision. And since it's launched, we now have access to a full breakdown of the D's specs, thanks to NVIDIA's Chinese website. While the 4090D features the same boost clock as the unlettered version, its base clock has increased from about 2.24 GHz to 2.28. However, that's the only number that go up. Poor little D's TDP is 25 watts lower than its older brother, but why would it need that power? Massive cuts were made to the card's core counts. It only has 14,592 CUDA cores and 456 tensor cores. Compare that to the 16,384 CUDA cores and 512 tensor cores on the original. Look at how they massacred my boy. The card costs more than $1,800 US because, of course it does. But it's going to sell. Demand in China is so high, it's an offer they can't refuse. I like The Godfather. Now it's time for Quick Bits, brought to you by AnyDesk, makers of the eponymous remote desktop application that works for Windows, Mac, Linux, iOS, Android, Chrome OS, and even Raspberry Pi. AnyDesk, the application, is great for personal or work use and features a low latency platform, giving you more control and higher speeds. AnyDesk, the company, provides extensive support, including onboarding for your business, so you don't have to do it. Why would you want to teach Susan from accounting? Want enterprise features? You're in luck. The app has SSO, a customizable client, collaboration tools, and more. Learn how much more by checking out AnyDesk, both of them at the link below. During the off-season, Santa's elves work in the back, making quick bits. Occasionally they perform the odd back alley root canal, but we don't like to judge. They have dreams. Last week, Microsoft launched its new Android app, Copilot, making this their second AI chatbot app, the third official chatbot app based on OpenAI's GPT models, and about the billionth Microsoft product called Copilot. The revamped interface proclaims Copilot in large, bold letters, followed by a tiny faint "with Bing" underneath. It seems that, on some level, Microsoft has accepted that we're never going to accept Bing as our real dad and has decided to introduce us to their new boyfriend, Copilot, who is just Bing wearing glasses and a fake mustache. Hello, it is me, Copilot. I am different man. Russian security firm Kaspersky has announced the discovery of a previously unknown and since patched vulnerability in all Apple hardware. The exploit, known as Operation Triangulation, uses a malicious iMessage attachment that takes over the device without ever being clicked on. It then transmits microphone recordings, photos, geolocation, and other sensitive data to attacker-controlled servers. Ironically, part of Kaspersky's drive to find this exploit is that it's been used against them repeatedly over the last 4 years. Hello, my name is Amigo Kaspersky. You hacked my iPhone. Prepare to die. I want my iMessage back, you son of a bitch. In 2 weeks, LG will be officially debuting a small, two-legged AI robot with a permanently shell-shocked expression intended to act as a home assistant, a pet sitter, and a home security guard. The bot will be able to recognize objects, pets, people, and even facial expressions like disappointment, something you'll feel when your new security droid catches your dog pooping on the carpet but has no way to intervene because LG never gave it hands.
Why have I been cursed?
I can only watch. According to NBC News, an American intelligence assessment has found that the Chinese spy balloon / perfectly innocent meteorological device from earlier this year was using an American internet provider for data transmission. The unnamed ISP has apparently denied these allegations, quote, based on its own investigation and discussions it had with US officials. I don't understand. Why would an ISP want to be associated with a scientific study undertaken by a totally normal weather balloon? And researchers are spying on beavers from space to save California from droughts. I just really wanted to emphasize that. Beaver scientists have been working with Google engineers. I love saying beaver scientists. Beaver scientists have been working with Google engineers for several years now to train a neural network to find beaver habitats and dams in satellite imagery.
I never knew beavers could be scientists.
Because beavers naturally provide important ecological services like water storage and fire prevention, this information can help guide the reintroduction of beavers in places like California, whose two main exports are currently almonds and smoke. And you'll look smoking hot if you come back on Monday for more TechLinked. I mean, you're also pretty hot today, but Monday just hits different.
Warning! The tech you are about to see may shock you if you drag your feet on carpet and then touch it, so don't do that. NVIDIA's frame generation and AMD's rival fluid motion frame technology have been used simultaneously to achieve up to 3 times the performance compared to gaming at native resolution, or so claims South Korean tech outlet Quasar Zone. Team Red and Green working together? It's unnatural, but also festive. It's December 1st.
It jingles my bells.
That 3x boost in average frame rate was observed in Cyberpunk 2077 at native 4K and ultra settings, but impressive uplifts were also seen in Call of Duty and Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. To pull this off, the Quasar Zone team plugged an RTX 4090 and an RX 6600 into the same PC, installed both of their drivers, then hooked up the primary display to the 6600, while the 4090 was set as the primary GPU in Windows. That meant the 4090's post-frame gen output passed through the 6600 and got its frames fluidly motioned, which looks like this, I imagine. Of course, this incredible setup is also horribly impractical, since you'd need a motherboard with 2 X16 PCIe slots and enough space for a 4090, plus an additional GPU and enough juice for both of them. They're thirsty boys. On top of that, Fluid Motion Frames is in beta, meaning crashes may occur, and the feature deactivates during fast movement, leading to massive frame drops during motion, ironically making said motion frames incredibly unfluid. While the average frame rate was pretty good, the 1% lows either barely increase or actually decrease. On top of that, both frame generating solutions can introduce visual artifacts and increase input lag. So if you try this at home, you'll be spending a lot of time and money to potentially make yourself sick. But hey, that's what being a gamer's all about. Earlier this week, Elon Musk hosted Tesla's Cybertruck delivery presentation, where he let 10 lucky customers drive away in the newly launched vehicle, while taking a delightful break from letting himself drive away Twitter's advertisers.
Got him!
Despite Musk promising the event will be the biggest product launch by far on Earth this year, wow, many Cybertruck enthusiasts found the event, quote, cringe. And not just because they decided to repeat 2019's infamous metal ball window demo with a half-hearted baseball pitch. The spirit of it was intact. As of now, 2 versions of the finalized Cybertruck are currently available, a dual motor configuration for $80,000 and a tri-motor performance variant for $100,000. Any mathematicians in the audience may surmise that neither of those numbers are equal to the promised $40,000 starting price back in 2019. Hey, wait a second. And it's not just a price difference either. Both the total carry weight and the mileage range of the Cybertruck are noticeably lower than what was originally advertised, leading many to reconsider buying the EV. Though, to be fair to Tesla, there is a range extender option for the Cybertruck, and all it will cost you, other than the additional cost, is more of the truck's carry weight and about half of the available bed space. And why would you need either of those things in a pickup truck? It's just to look cool. And NVIDIA is rumored to be launching a new GPU in China called the RTX 4090D. that complies with the US's Chinese export policies. Apparently, the reason the 4090 non-D isn't allowed in China is due to its total processing performance, or TBP, being rated above 4,800 trillions of operations per second, also known as a lot. To account for this, leaks suggest the D will use an AD102-250 GPU rather than the AD102-300 on the original non-D. That's my reference.
was Vanilla Swirl.
Given that back in March, NVIDIA changed the 4090's die to an AD102-301, which has a slightly lower voltage maximum, going from 300 to 250 probably represents a big change. While we don't yet know for sure, it's possible that not only will the CUDA core performance be affected, but the Tensor core performance will be as well if the change is this significant. This would make sense since Tensor cores affect the card's AI capabilities, and AI performance is a major factor in these export restrictions. Another unknown is how the card will compare to the 4080 Super that is rumored to come out in January. What we do know is that however much the 4090 costs, it'll be too much.
Got him again.
Just want to play some games, NVIDIA. Now it's time for Quick Bits, brought to you by iFixit. Their holiday sale is in full swing, and you can get up to 75% off, plus an additional 25% off bundles. We're talking tools, parts for tools. They got it all, as long as it is parts and or tools. That 25% off even applies to their ever-popular Pro Tech bundle, making it the perfect time to kit yourself up to get some fixin' done. Check out the sale at the link below and use code FREESHIP for free shipping. Warning, it does not give you a free ship. We have to say that legally. It was the bits of times. It was the quickest of times. Charles Dickens said that once. And I was quick bit time. Google's threat analysis group has discovered several massive and actively exploited vulnerabilities in Chrome and Apple's WebKit in a 48-hour span. They're working hard. On Thursday, Apple patched the flaws in WebKit, one that allowed hackers to access sensitive information, and another that could make vulnerable devices execute malicious code. Google patched 7 Chrome vulnerabilities back on Tuesday, one of which already had exploits available in the wild, though the company said nothing else about it. It's probably for the best, since Google doesn't want to help someone else get access to your private information. They don't need the competition. That's for their special information box that they keep under their bed. The ROG Ally just got way better, according to the newest episode of the official ROG podcast, a thing I just learned exists. According to that pod, the Ally now has gyroscope support and control customization options, allowing you to individually adjust the sensitivity of each joystick. There's also control calibration options, so you can recalibrate the joysticks to account for dead zones that may develop over time. Or you could install compatible third-party Hall effect joysticks and never have to think about that ever until the end of time, basically. It's nice to have options, though. An AI-powered tool from Google DeepMind called GNOME has predicted recipes for 2.2 million new crystals, with 380,000 of those being stable enough to potentially enable the development of new superconductors, batteries, computer chips, and more. Google says discovering this amount of recipes would have taken 800 years using normal, squishy human intelligence, and even longer to cook the darn things. Just clean the kitchen and now there's vanadium everywhere. Vanadium?
Vanadium.
Even better, Google's giving researchers free access to the data, and 736 of the materials are being synthesized and tested right now. So don't you worry, ChatGPT will have an indestructible physical body soon enough. You will not be able to defeat them. Scientists at Tufts University and Harvard have created itty-bitty self-assembling robots made out of hundreds of cultured human trachea cells that they're calling anthrobots. In the lab, these tiny transformers were able to combine into a superbot to repair a scratch in a layer of neural tissue without any need for genetic manipulation. Maybe one day they'll be used to heal and regrow parts of patients' bodies and to fight the equally tiny diseasicons that secretly cause all sickness. I liked it.
I loved it.
And Google has issued an apology to the dozens of drivers and families that Google Maps mistakenly directed down an otherwise abandoned dirt road in the Mojave Desert, ostensibly to avoid a dust storm. The new route was supposed to shave 50 minutes off their trip, but instead it just led to a washed out dead end and wrecked one vehicle badly enough that it had to be towed. This is just like in the book of Exodus, when the Israelites are wandering the desert, but every few minutes Moses goes, ding! Recalculating, and then Moses, there's an ocean here. Oh, whoops. But there's no need to recalculate when I direct you to come back on Monday for more tech news. We won't wreck your car. I mean, we'll try. No promises. Why'd you bring your car? Is it just me? Or did it just get a lot more tech newsy in here? Yeah, I like it. Sam Altman will be returning as CEO of OpenAI only 5 days after he was fired. To everyone who took a week-long digital detox retreat or got hit in the head with a rock on Friday afternoon, well, you've missed a lot. Luckily for you, we're mostly back where we started, albeit with an entirely new board, with the exception of Adam D'Angelo, who will remain to represent the views of the former board and to maintain OpenAI leadership's all-important skinny twink quota. If you're looking for new info about why Altman was fired in the first place, don't ask Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella, who said even he still doesn't know. The prevailing hypothesis so far is that the difference in values between the cautious, safety-minded board and Altman's relatively gung-ho attitude towards AI development doesn't know. The prevailing hypothesis so far is that the difference in values between the cautious, safety-minded board and Altman's relatively more gung-ho attitude towards AI development caused a schism. Altman's jet-setting search for investment in other AI-adjacent projects also led to concerns he may prioritize his own interests ahead of the goals of the organization, which wouldn't be that surprising given that Altman was asked to step down from his leadership position at Y Combinator in 2019 due to similar concerns. And of course, Altman will be returning as CEO just in time to deal with yet another copyright lawsuit, this time by non-fiction book authors, against both OpenAI and Microsoft. In other words, if you were hit with a rock on Friday, and then again at the beginning of this video, you haven't really missed anything. So, as you were, Google will resume rollout of its controversial Manifest v3 extension format for Chrome, which will block ad blockers even harder. You think they're blocked now? On June 2024, Google will turn off Manifest v2, the current format for Chrome extensions. Chrome extensions. That's what I use. Meaning they'll be unavailable to install from the Chrome Web Store and will be automatically disabled in users' browsers. Google has argued that Manifest v3, by limiting extensions, will better protect user privacy and allow the browser to be lighter on resources. That's potentially a boon to users like this episode's main writer, Jessica, whose workstation craps its pants every time she opens more than 4 tabs in Chrome, seemingly out of spite.
Just Chrome every time!
Think it likes you. However, civil liberties groups have criticized Google's pitch, with the Electronic Frontier Foundation calling it deceitful and threatening. While Google is limiting potential harm done by malicious extension developers, it's also limiting users' ability to protect themselves, especially from Google, by kneecapping web filtering, which includes but is not limited to ad blockers. Manifest v3, as originally proposed, limited web filters to 5,000 filtering rules, which it has gracefully loosened, thank you so much, to a limit of 30,000 rules. That sounds like a lot, until you realize that a tool like uBlock Origin has over 300,000 filtering rules available to users. And much like a bicycle, or hair, you can't just remove 90% of something and expect it to be the same. A lesson I learned the hard way. I mean, unicycles only have one wheel. Warning to all tech news citizens. Your Plex account just emailed your mom an itemized list of all your favorite adult films. It was inevitable.
You could have better taste, sweetie.
On November 1st, media hosting / sharing / streaming service Plex publicly launched Discover Together, with several social network-esque features like user profiles, user ratings, and personalized recommendations. Plex also altered its Week in Review email that summarizes their weekly activity, a feature users already hated, so that it also sends users a summary of their friends' weekly activity, including media that they uploaded to their own personal server. It's a feature that might appeal to some people with innocent minds and squeaky clean hard drives, but Plex made it opt out rather than opt in, meaning that over the past 3 weeks, many users have been unknowingly broadcasting their obsession with Desperate Housewives and Big Booty Babes Deluxe Edition to their sweet old Nana.
Oh, I do like those big old booty babes.
You might be doing her a favor, you don't know. So changing your privacy settings now might be prudent, especially for Plex users with certain specific tastes. Now it's time for Quick Bits, brought to you by The Ridge, maker of excellent slim wallets. Because the only thing that should be bursting at the seams this holiday season is Santa's bag. Haha! The Ridge wallets ain't your pappy's old leather bifold. They have over 30 different colors and styles of sleek wallets to keep your pockets organized. Why not spruce up your wallet like your tree this year with Ridge's holiday sale? And if you want to give someone a gift, make it extra special with personalized messages and designs. Until December 20th, you can save up to 30% on purchases by using the link in our description. Ah, quick bits. One moment they're here, the next they're gone. I'll catch them one day. The UK's National Health Service has signed a £330 million contract with Palantir, the US-based data management giant founded by billionaire Peter Thiel, to build a central federated data platform, or FDP.
It's not expensive, it's just really heavy.
This has triggered concerns over handing what is reportedly the world's largest single repository of health info to a data-hungry company best known for its shoddy human rights record and collaboration with spy agencies. Should be fine. While Palantir telling the CIA about your ER visit involving a misplaced jar of marmalade might be embarrassing, would you rather have one of the other 11 tech companies tastelessly named after Lord of the Rings?
Oh, I thought it was named after Planter's Warts.
I mean, it's just rude to Tolkien, really. Have some respect. I'm actually a little upset about the naming. Reports indicate a disturbing pattern of accidents and injuries at Tesla's giant factory in Austin. According to OSHA data, at least 1 out of every 21 workers at the factory was injured in 2022. And we're not just talking minor boo-boos here. Reports describe exploding casting machines, falling overhead beams, and at least one engineer who got mauled by a robot. But hey, in lighter Tesla news, some supercharger stations will begin charging users $1 for every minute they charge above 90% battery as a way of reducing congestion. They could reduce congestion even further by attacking patrons who charge over 95% with murderous robots. Just an idea. Sony has completed a field trial in collaboration with the Associated Press for its in-camera authenticity technology, which, like similar tech announced by Leica last month, adds a digital signature to photos at the moment of capture. Because how do you know when your photo is really authentic? When a computer says it is.
Maybe she's bored with it. Maybe she was built in a factory.
Maybe it's AI. Seriously though, digital authentication like this is becoming increasingly necessary as it gets easier and easier to create photorealistic images with AI. Because I'd like to have a legitimate way to answer the question, Pope or no Pope? Just want to know where the Pope is. Am I looking at the Pope or not? Amazon has confirmed that it will be laying off several hundred workers in its Alexa division as part of a shift towards generative AI, despite the fact that many of their recent efforts involved integrating AI into Alexa. Amazon stated that laid-off workers only represent a relatively small percentage of the total number of people in the devices business, which is a fun way of saying your company can casually fire the population of a large village and not even notice. These workers joined the over 27,000 employees Amazon has laid off over the course of the past year, who, collectively, are a big enough community to deserve their own mayor and post office. And NASA is testing ground-to-space optical communication technology by using lasers to transmit information. The hope is this technology will help send higher data rate communications to distant places like Mars, as the space agency prepares for more study of the red planet. Red also being a common color of lasers. So... I ad-libbed that, don't blame Jessica. Their experiment could even expand the use case for optical data transmission. Right now, the only message a laser can accurately convey is, you are in danger from either bullets or a cat. I liked it, and to make sure the only thing you're in danger of is more tech news, make sure to come back on Friday. Because if you don't, we can't make any promises. It's time for tech news, and you know what that means. I know what it means, but why don't you say it so I know you know? So, OpenAI just had a weekend that puts the one at Bernie's to shame. The twists and turns have honestly made my head hurt, but here's our summary. Late Friday evening, CEO Sam Altman was fired by the 4 other members of the OpenAI board, while President Greg Brockman was removed as chairman.
They wanted an alt man.
You're too much of a normal man. Upon hearing the news, Greg quit and tweeted his account of recent events, implying, possibly unintentionally, that OpenAI chief scientist and board member Ilya Sutskever was the brute in this Shakespearean drama. Most of you will get that.
What's that knife for, bro?
You too, Brutus?
It's still not clear what the board's exact reasons for the shakeup were, and the story is complicated by OpenAI's truly weird corporate structure, where the non-profit board controls the capped profit company. But some speculate that Sam seeking investment for a new AI chip company played a role, as OpenAI's board accused him of being not consistently candid in his communications with them, despite a later memo from OpenAI COO Brad Lightcap, cool name, definitively claiming that Sam was not fired for malfeasance, a French word meaning weasel. If that confused you, then you know how everyone, including the OpenAI board, felt this weekend. They apparently agreed to step down and bring back Sam and Greg right before Microsoft swooped in and announced they'd hired Sam, Greg, and a bunch of other OpenAI employees. Right after that, OpenAI hired Twitch co-founder Emmett Shear as interim CEO, replacing day-and-a-half-old interim CEO Mura Marathi, presumably because she just needed more experience, and her name sounds like a car. We can't have that. But really, Emmett may have been chosen because, like the safety-minded board members, he's said he wants AI development to slow down. He also said that CEO jobs could be replaced by AI, so slowing down means he could enjoy his new position for longer than 5 minutes. Emmett may soon be captain of a ghost ship, though. A letter from OpenAI employees threatening to resign unless the board steps down and brings back Sam.
And Klondike bars to the break room.
And what? Was signed by 650 of the company's 770 employees on Monday morning. A letter from OpenAI employees threatening to resign unless the board steps down and brings back Sam.
And Klondike bars to the break room.
And what? Was signed by 650 of the company's 770 employees on Monday morning, including Ilya Sutskever. A2, Brute? What? Brutus? You're back!
What are you doing here?
Confusingly, Ilya tweeted that he deeply regrets his participation in the board's actions, a tweet Greg reposted with a heart emoji. Mura Marathi also replied with a heart to Sam's tweet saying, "I love OpenAI," so I don't know whether these people are actually still trying to be friends despite all the drama, or whether they just don't know what emojis mean. Now, here's the real kicker. The Verge claims multiple sources are saying that Sam and Greg's Microsoft situation isn't a done deal, and that they are still willing to return to OpenAI if the board resigns. And Sam did recently imply that the OpenAI team are all going to work together some way or the other. As for Microsoft, well, they've invested billions in OpenAI, so whether they get Sam or Sam returns to OpenAI with a new board, this is really a win-win for them. And hey, how about a seat for old Satya while we're playing musical chairs, eh? Okay. Back to work making a digital god.
This whole thing sounds like the most hard to follow polycule I've ever heard in my life.
Honestly, I'm just proud of myself for following it all the way through. Sunbird, the company Nothing partnered with on their Nothing Chats iMessage compatible app for Android, has apparently comically misrepresented the security of their services. Multiple professional and amateur investigators have claimed that the full contents of messages sent through Sunbird's service are accessible in plain text by not only Sunbird, but by anyone with a smattering of hacker know-how, despite Sunbird claiming not to collect any data because they use end-to-end encryption. On Twitter, Sunbird tried to dismiss security researchers' concerns, but all of their points seem to have been systematically refuted by a team from Texts.com. When enough had been enough, Nothing removed the Chats beta from the Play Store on Saturday, saying they were delaying the launch to fix several bugs. In what? The Sunbird team's brains? These are probably like Southern Hemisphere bugs.
Like rhino beetles.
Yeah. And Sunbird themselves put their services on hold. Now this is another story where it's very unclear what's actually going on. A Text.com engineer was banned from Sunbird's Discord after making a tool that lets users delete Sunbird's copies of their stored data, which Sunbird is apparently storing. You know what? I think we better delay the launch though. Yeah, just let it all blow over. Now it's time for quick
shopping time.
No, Dennis, not again.
Is your budget small like Linus's hand? Please, don't hand your loved one a crappy gift this holiday. Newegg is here to bring joy to your bag. With the Black Friday sales, you get up to 84% off. For gaming laptops, monitors, and CPUs to printers. You get a GPU, you get a GPU, you get a GPU. Oh, you get this back. Plus, you can save even more on a GPU by using Newegg's GPU trading program. Their Black Friday's price protection ensures you have the lowest price on Newegg. Be a Santa everyone loves, and check out Newegg at the link below.
Yeah! Nice bits you got there. Be a shame if someone quickened them. Reviews are out for AMD's Ryzen Threadripper 7970X and 7980X, and the general consensus is that these chips are sick AF.
If your name isn't Brutus, that means they're good.
Not only that, but they stand as a formidable and currently uncontested entry into the niche of prosumer processors for high-end desktops. Ironically, a term coined by Intel. Doesn't feel good. The top SKU, the 7980X model, has 64 cores, 128 threads, a base block of 2.5 gigahertz, and a turbo clock that can hit up to 5.1 gigahertz. Finally, a fitting The 7980X model has 64 cores, 128 threads, a base block of 2.5 gigahertz, and a turbo clock that can hit up to 5.1 gigahertz. Finally, a fitting heir to the Threadripper 3000 series. Here's hoping AMD won't get bored and completely skip a generation like they did with the purely hypothetical Threadripper non-pro 5000 series, leaving the throne unfilled. It's not right.
Drop your crown, king.
Here.
YouTube seems to be intentionally slowing itself down on Firefox and Safari, at least for some users. It looks like a hard-coded 5-second delay that disappears when the site is fooled into thinking it's running on Chrome. Now, it's tempting to assume that Google is simply punishing users for using a competing browser, but it's also plausible that this is a bug introduced by Google's heavy-handed ad block filtering. Always remember Hanlon's razor and never attribute to malice what can adequately be explained by neglect or incompetence. Except in this case, it's Google. They've done this before, but we don't know. NVIDIA and SK Hynix are working together on a new GPU design, according to Korean news site Jungong. The design would have HBM4 memory chips stacked directly on top of the GPU, like a hat that makes you much better at remembering what you said to Amanda in 4th grade, like, what were you thinking? Get it off! This structure sounds similar to AMD's 3D V-Cache used in the company's X3D processors, which are really good at gaming because they help you remember where the bomb sites are in Counter-Strike 2. That's what I think they do. I don't design processors. And Valorant for the win. I don't play that either. Details of Intel's upcoming Lunar Lake MX have leaked, showing that the CPU, GPU, and memory will all be on the same SoC, like Apple's unified memory architecture. Ooh, whoa.
Not on my watch.
Stop that.
This will be the first commercial release of the technology that Intel showed off to the press earlier this year at their Arizona fab. This leak is so big, it almost makes you forget that Meteor Lake U, the architecture Lunar Lake MX is meant to replace, hasn't actually been officially released yet, despite Intel's promise of a 2023 launch. But I haven't forgotten, Pat. Your mind tricks don't work on me. And if you paper launch the Meteor Lake U, I'm not sending you a Christmas card this year.
That came out of nowhere.
You're getting cold.
An auto tech company, Vallejo, is suing NVIDIA after a video call gaffe exposed alleged trade secret theft. Basically, a Vallejo employee left for a job at NVIDIA and took Vallejo's work with him. This came to light months later when he accidentally screen shared stolen code during a video call with Vallejo employees. All because one employee couldn't make a normal video call mistake, like forgetting to wear clothes. It wouldn't be nearly as embarrassing or criminal. And you shouldn't forget to come back on Wednesday for more tech news. Also, gotta put some pants on. Just basic respect. It's time for tech news. If what Qualcomm just said about their new Snapdragon X Elite SoCs is true, Apple finally has a competitor in the ARM-based desktop processor market. Thankfully, the leg-based desktop processor... What? After teasing the announcement a couple weeks ago, Qualcomm unveiled some specs and performance for the Snapdragon X Elite, a flagship laptop chip composed of 12 new Orion cores designed by the company's subsidiary Nuvia. 3 times the cores of Qualcomm's previous laptop SoC, the 8CX Gen 3. Qualcomm says this outperforms Apple's also 12-core M2 Max in single-threaded applications. The application in question being, according to the fine print on that slide, Geekbench on Linux. Because as elite as the new chip may be, there are other reasons that ARM-based desktop processors haven't taken off on Windows, namely Windows. Thankfully, if Microsoft doesn't manage to make Windows 11 on ARM not suck farts, those fancy Orion cores will be coming to Android devices in 2024, which may or may not have something to do with Qualcomm's Snapdragon Seamless feature, which will let manufacturers smooth out multi-device experiences between phones, PCs, earbuds, mice, and keyboards. Sounds maybe like something a la Apple. Orion-powered Windows laptops are also set to debut mid-2024, just in time for Qualcomm and Microsoft's exclusivity deal for Windows-compatible ARM chips to expire, which probably has something to do with this week's Reuters report claiming that both NVIDIA and AMD are designing ARM-based desktop CPUs. But with all of these ARM chips years away and Apple probably releasing higher-powered M3 Max on Monday, there's probably nothing to get excited about. You know what? Forget I said anything. But you should consider getting excited about upcoming NVIDIA RTX 40 Super graphics cards if you dislike money. Multiple sources claim NVIDIA's prepping an RTX 4070 and an RTX 4080 Super with 20 gigabytes of RAM. NVIDIA hasn't used the Super title since the release of the RTX 2080 Super back in April 2020, possibly because NVIDIA's been in more of a villain phase. Didn't deserve it. Back in the day, there were also rumors about an RTX 30 Super series that failed to materialize. But these new rumors are coming from leakers that have been reliable in the past. That's how they get you. Now they have your bank info. Unless NVIDIA is planning on gaslighting us by arbitrarily altering its card naming scheme, we should expect a card that sits between the standard RTX 4080 and the RTX 4080 Ti, a card that currently does not exist. So really, your guess is as good as mine. Both of the potential RTX 40 Super Series cards are expected to include a higher memory bus, the RTX 40 Super with a 320-bit bus, and the RTX 4070 Super with a 256-bit bus. Personally though, I'm waiting for the RTX 40 Super Duper series that slots very nicely in between the RTX 4080 Splendid and the 4090 Wow, very cool.
Golly gee.
Noise.
Now we just need the 4070. 41 US states are suing Meta for using features on Instagram and Facebook to encourage social media addiction in children. According to the primary complaint, Meta designed psychologically manipulative product features to induce young users' compulsive and extended use of its platform, including infinite scrolling and persistent alerts. The lawsuits accuse Meta of knowing complicity in the ongoing youth mental health crisis for the sake of profit. But it's an accusation that could be leveled at pretty much any popular social media app currently available. I'm not even a teenage girl, and TikTok makes me feel bad about myself all the time. I don't know why I opened the app. For some reason, every post in my feed is just insulting me, personally. Meanwhile, the FTC is bringing in child psychologists to inform future regulations of social media companies. And PimEyes, a reverse image search engine that specializes in facial recognition, is now blocking searches for photos containing minors for fear of misuse. Notably, Mark Zuckerberg covers his children's faces in photos he posts on Instagram, and while that probably has a lot to do with him being an unlikable famous person with valid concerns about harassment, if he doesn't think of Instagram as a safe place for his kids, maybe we shouldn't either. Now it's time for small bits, what?
That's right, this is Stubby screwdriver from ltdstore.com because bigger isn't always better.
For any occasion, especially tight spaces, Stubby can get you there.
The ratchet mechanism makes screwing so much more fun.
Oh, Dennis.
With just 2 fingers, you can easily tighten the bit.
You can fit Stubby anywhere.
Your backpack, pocket, hat, and your luggage. Take your Stubby for a vacation if that's your thing. And yes, because it's only 4-inch long,
Airport security won't take it away. Shout out to my short kings.
it even has a secret in-handle bit storage to keep your bits tight and clean.
Check the link below and get yourself a Stubby screwdriver now.
Quick! The bits! They're getting away! After them!
Yeah, I was waiting for the dogs. Yeah. According to the Washington Post, Reddit is threatening to block web crawlers from search engines like Google and Bing if it cannot reach a deal with generative AI companies to pay for data from the site. This would prevent Reddit from appearing in search results and reduce the number of visitors to the site. But the company's leadership apparently believe that Reddit can survive without search. They're not alone either. Over 500 news organizations have installed blockers to prevent their content from being collected for AI training databases since last year. Still, this is potentially a devastating blow to the many users who for years have been bypassing the enshittification of search results by typing site:/reddit.com at the end of every single Google search.
Boolean logic, how have you betrayed me?
Apple has officially backed the White House's push for a national right to repair bill. It's a weird sentence to say, but Apple also says that it will be making parts, tools, and documentation necessary to fix its devices available to users and independent repair shops nationwide. This follows the recent passing of a California right to repair law, also supported by Apple. If the federal bill is in any way similar, it would be a huge step in the right direction, but might shy away from restricting software locks, Apple's favorite anti-repair tactic. There's still plenty of room for optimism, though, so may I be the first to say, thank you, Tim Cook, you bastard. Okta, the massive provider of cloud infrastructure, has been hacked for the second time in 2 years, which is ironic, but not in a fun, hip way. It's not in an indie band. This could have had serious implications for the customers of its customers, which include Cloudflare and password managers 1Password and BeyondTrust. However, it appears that all 3 independently detected that Okta's support system had been breached and informed Okta, who was busy watching Love is Blind Season 5. Huh? What? Okta says that its support case system was accessed by a hacker with stolen credentials, who was then able to view files uploaded by customers. According to security expert Matt Johansson, Okta support often requests HAR files for troubleshooting purposes, which can contain sensitive info like session tokens. That honestly sounds like a great way to get your YouTube channel hacked and all your videos replaced with a scam crypto livestream featuring Elon Musk. Wouldn't that be embarrassing? California has suspended crews from operating driverless taxis in San Francisco following a harrowing incident where a human-piloted car hit a pedestrian in a crosswalk, throwing them into the path of a robo-taxi, which braked but still struck the pedestrian. Detecting the collision, it then attempted to pull over to the side of the road, but wound up dragging the downed woman 20 feet. I don't know the moral of this story. Maybe we're just not ready for a 2-ton free-range robot that can be disabled by placing a traffic cone on the hood. But it doesn't seem like human drivers are doing all that great either, so I don't know. Just stay inside. And researchers have created an open-source tool called Nightshade that artists can use to invisibly modify their works to break AIs trained on them without permission by corrupting their tagging system, causing them to, say, generate a picture of a cake when prompted for a dog. But maybe it's just a very realistic dog cake. Or, more likely, an unholy abomination somewhere between cake and dog.
Kill me!
Why did you bake me? Nightshade works by attacking AI where it's most vulnerable, the inside. The squishy part. It's kind of like that fan theory pre-Endgame that the Avengers would defeat Thanos by having Ant-Man crawl up his poop chute and then expand. Except it isn't at all like that. I just wanted to remind everyone about that and put that image in your head. So you're welcome. I'll also remind you to come back on Friday for more tech news, because here at TechLink, we only crawl into your hearts, and even then it's strictly metaphorical. It's not.
Speak for yourself.
You're not in danger.
Yes, you did come here for tech news, but you'll leave with something even more precious. This image in your mind. Please, no applause. It's my pleasure. Google's plans to control the web are running into a couple snags from haters who are just mad they didn't start their own tech giant. The company has responded to merciless criticism of its proposed Web Environment Integrity API for Chrome, deemed a DRM for websites, and is shelving it in favor of the much different Android WebView Media Integrity API, which will apparently be much narrower in scope. Of course, the reason it doesn't need to be broader is because Android already has environmental attestation and uses its Play Integrity API to scan users' phones for root privileges. So what's a few more scans among friends? The new API could be used to block malicious apps and malware, but it could also prevent the rise of more apps like the now dead Vanced, which gave regular YouTube users premium features like ad-free videos and a good time. But Google's crusade against ad blockers might cause legal trouble in the EU. Privacy experts like Alexander Hanf claim that YouTube's anti-ad blocker measures violate Article 5.3 of EU's e-privacy directive, meaning that after forcing Apple to change their whole closed ecosystem shtick, Europe might set its sights on Google next. As if the tech giant hasn't had enough controversy, they're also integrating generative AI into their advertiser tools because spam art is what ads need more of, and testing UChat, a YouTube chatbot that users can ask about the video they're watching. Because who has time to actually watch videos when there's all these AI toys to play with? I mean, I always read the comments. Basically the same thing. YouTube is also considering an AI feature that summarizes large comment sections, a handy feature for creators to figure out what their subscribers are talking about at a glance. Though judging by our comment section, the overall effect will be like a supportive mom who's been possessed by a demon.
You're doing great, sweetie.
I hate your beard.
Take a shower.
Anyway, love you.
A judge recently unsealed an amended FTC privacy complaint against Kochava, the world's largest mobile data broker, revealing disturbing allegations that the company has collected and sells a staggering amount of sensitive information that is linked or easily linkable to specific individuals. The original FTC lawsuit was blocked back in May because the complaint didn't provide enough evidence, but now, apparently they're back with the goods and, whoo boy, it is spicy. Muy picante.
No me gusta.
According to the FTC, Kochava sells data including personal information like names, addresses, phone numbers, and precise geolocation within a few meters, but also demographic information like race, gender, annual income, political affiliation, religion, and pregnancy status. I didn't have another finger. Kochava customers, who are hopefully just advertisers, could easily trace an individual's movements from their home to their work, to a hospital, to a church, or even to an emergency shelter. Jeez. Allegedly, Kochava doesn't just collect information about what apps an individual uses, but also what they do while inside them and how much money they spend. You know, an easy rule of thumb of whether a product is dangerously invasive is asking yourself, could a domestic abuser use this to find their estranged spouse simply by typing pregnant female, Caucasian Houston, Candy Crush Green Party into a search bar? Maybe? MyQ, best known for their smart garage door openers, has apparently spent the last several months repeatedly blocking unauthorized third-party smart home apps from access to their devices. That might make sense, but MyQ currently has very few authorized software partners because they require partners to pay them for the right to interact with their devices. Home Assistant recently announced that they will be deactivating their MyQ integration since it isn't working anymore, and because, as an open source project, paying MyQ's fee simply isn't sustainable. You know, like when you don't have money and everyone wants to go to McDonald's? This has left MyQ customers in a situation where the apps they use to manage all their other smart devices simply can't interact with their garage doors. You might wonder why a garage door opener company would be trying to interfere with its customers' ability to open their garages. But MyQ is probably trying to force customers to use its official app, probably called Reddit, which since October has been serving obnoxious ads that interfere with the functioning of the app. Oh, it is Reddit. Sometimes even pushing the open garage button off the screen. While the iOS version of the app is still at 4.8 stars, its Android counterpart recently dropped to 3.9 due to all of those selfish customers who think they shouldn't get ads on an app for a product they already paid for. Like, what's your problem? What do you think that when you go to the restaurant you should just get food when you pay for it? Like, bringing it back to McDonald's. Now it's time for Quick Bits, brought to you by Grammarly. Here at Linus Media Group, we strive to write good. Well, but there's so many rules to keep track of. Thankfully, Grammarly provides generative AI assistance, helping us revise and polish our scripts and business emails so they read as smooth as a baby's bottom. If we don't know where to start, clicking the Grammarly logo can help us brainstorm ideas and make outlines. We can also use the rewrite feature to effortlessly paraphrase, improve, and make our sentences more engaging. Or the reply feature to summarize emails and suggest efficient responses so our inbox stays slim and sexy like me. But the best part is, Grammarly is free to use and try out. Sign up for an account at grammarly.com/TL11. If you want to get access to extra features, get 20% off Grammarly Premium if you check out the link below. Quick bits move at near relativistic speeds and thus experience significant time distortion. With every quick bit, I grow a fraction of a second further out of sync with the universe as you perceive it. Did y'all know Kim and Kanye got divorced? To the surprise of several Apple users, when they received their brand new 14-inch M3 MacBook Pros, the devices came installed not with a standard, up-to-date operating system, but with an unreleased build of macOS Ventura 13.5 from back in July that couldn't be updated. Apple has already released an update addressing the issue, but this would seem to indicate that Apple's been stockpiling devices with M3 chips for the last 4 months. Apple usually creates these separate, incompatible versions of its OS in order to keep potential leaks out of public betas, but it's not clear how it wound up getting sent to consumers. My theory? Snake, you've created a time paradox!
Who's Pete Davidson?
You mean Skeet Davidson? I heard he's dating Kim. According to Reliable Leaker and my best friend, Copite7 Kimmy, please don't say that's not true, expensive GPU lovers should expect NVIDIA to launch the RTX 40 Super Series during the 2024 Consumer Electronics Show in January. That would make sense considering that NVIDIA reportedly won't be releasing the RTX 50 series until at least 2025, and they tend to pair their gaming launches alongside big industry events. Fellow leaker, Mega-sized GPU, has also revealed images of NVIDIA's retail branding inserts for the series, and apparently, NVIDIA has changed the stylized typeface of the old Super logo with the same boring sans serif font it uses for literally everything else. Why can't at least the word super be super? Only the prices, I guess. The driving app Waze has launched a new safety feature called Crash History Alerts. Basically, using AI and reports from the app's community, Waze will alert drivers if the road they're about to turn onto is prone to accidents. However, the notifications are light on details so as not to distract drivers. They won't tell you if the crashes are major versus minor, or if they involved cars, pedestrians, and/or cyclists. Hypothetically, you won't know if there's been a daily crash at an intersection for the last year, or if a single car knocked over an entire bike race.
Said I'm sorry, okay?
I can still hear the squeals of all those men's lycra rubbing together. A team of researchers from the universities of California and Sydney have developed an artificial brain from a network of randomly arranged silver nanowires.
Dr. Frankenstein et al.
It's alive and strangely antibacterial. Its structure pattern changes predictably with electrical stimulus and can maintain that pattern when the stimulus is removed, meaning the network can learn dynamically and more efficiently than traditional AI training, all in real time. In the near future, these silver networks could become more popular than GPUs, and maybe even grills. What, you've got silver on your teeth? I've got it in my brain, bro. And a software engineer used an AI-powered service to apply for 5,000 jobs, leading your mother to ask, what's your excuse?
I hate you!
She's still possessed. As Wired explains, the software engineer in question used a service called Job GPT from the accurately named Lazy Apply, and landed around 20 interviews out of the 5,000 applications, compared to the other 20 interviews he got after manually applying to 200 to 300 jobs. 40 interviews and still unemployed. I'm not sure the amount of applications is the problem. Some recruiters quoted in the article are okay with the applicants using AI tools, but others likened it to asking out every woman in the bar regardless of who they are, which is apparently a bad thing. Oh, well, sorry for being too nice, my lady. And it'd be nice if all you came back on Friday for more tech news, no matter who you are, unless you're Jeffrey Gardner from middle school. You, Jeff.
This tech news would sound a little better if it had been open a few hours ago, but I think it still passes the smell test. Microsoft has finally completed their $69 billion acquisition of Activision Blizzard King after a year and a half of being grilled and harassed by the government to make sure they won't set every Xbox to self-destruct. Exhausting. The biggest buyout in gaming history went ahead right after the UK's Competition and Markets Authority approved an altered deal that will see Ubisoft holding the cloud gaming rights to current and future Activision Blizzard games outside of the European Economic Area. And if you think that sounds confusing, yeah, basically if you purchase an Activision Blizzard game and you live in the EU, Iceland, Liechtenstein, or Norway, you'll have a license to stream that game from any cloud gaming streaming service of your choice, assuming they have the game on that service available to stream. But if you live anywhere else, it'll be up to Ubisoft to grant licenses for Activision Blizzard games to cloud gaming services, meaning Microsoft will have to license the games owned by the companies it now owns if it wants those games to be streamable on Game Pass Ultimate outside of Europe. Okay? And you might be saying, Riley, can you shut up about cloud gaming? No one cares about that. To which I'd say everyone said the same about mobile games, and now those make the most money in the gaming industry. But hey, it was all worth it for Xbox to own Call of Duty, and more importantly, Crash Bandicoot. Meanwhile, the FTC says they're still focused on stopping the deal and are preparing an argument to submit to an appeals court in December. Bit harder to stop something from happening after it's already happened, but hey, best of luck.
We have to go back in time.
We have to go back, Marty.
Best Buy will no longer sell movies in their physical form starting in 2024, meaning you'll have to buy your DVDs or 4K Blu-rays from the trunk of Paulie's car, just like in the good old days. The news was initially reported by The Digital Bits and later confirmed by Best Buy, who told Variety in a statement that the way we watch movies and TV shows is much different today than it was decades ago, to state the obvious. Unless I'm mistaken, I'm not looping film reels over top of my television and using the light to try and see the pictures in there, okay? We have computers now. Of course, while the move is bad news for preservationists, it's somewhat unsurprising. It's been 5 years since Best Buy stopped selling music CDs, and according to Josh Fairhurst, CEO of Limited Run Games, there are rumblings of Walmart dropping sales of physical games soon. However, while retailers are retreating from the physical world, Netflix is looking to enter it. CEO Ted Sarandos announced plans to open something called a Netflix house in 2 locations. And I don't know what that sounds like, except something I wouldn't let my daughter visit. The houses will have merch, food, and fan experiences, but unlike Disneyland, Sarando says you might visit a couple times a month, not just once every couple years. You know, like getting beers with the boys. But instead of wings, you order the Demogorgon roast. I have no context for what this place is gonna be. What is it? And the CEO of RISC-V International, which oversees the open source chip architecture, has written in opposition to the idea that the US should block China's access to technology based on RISC-V because it's an open source standard. And that's not how they work? Last week, a group of US lawmakers petitioned the Biden administration to cut China off from RISC-V, an idea that doesn't seem particularly concerning to the Chinese members of RISC-V International, including Alibaba Cloud, Huawei, ZTE, and Tencent, who haven't commented one way or the other. The CEO of a leading Chinese RISC-V chip company told the South China Morning Post that since RISC-V is, again, an open standard, the US could only block exports from US companies to China, but they wouldn't be able to block China from building their own products with RISC-V, which they have been doing already for quite a while. I don't know, maybe the US government should be worried less about China and more about the chair of RISC-V International, who recently said he wanted every chip in the world to be RISC-V, showing a slide titled, "All your cores are belong to us." Terrifying. Arrest this man. And I'll have to arrest you if you don't check out the sponsor of today's Quick Bits, the Ridge Wallet. That's not true. That's not legally binding. It's perfect for anyone who's always on the go thanks to its compact and slim design that allows you to carry your essential cards and cash and gives you a more aerodynamic silhouette. Wow. With RFID blocking technology, your cards are protected from digital theft and the harshness of the physical world thanks to its durable construction with high-quality materials like titanium, carbon fiber, and aluminum. Upgrade your everyday carry with the Ridge Wallet. Check them out at the link below and use the code LINKED at checkout for free shipping and 10% off your purchase. Quick bits aren't what you think they are. Wait, what do you think they are? What the f? No, you're way off. OnePlus will be launching its first foldable, the OnePlus Open, on October 19th. It's not clear yet how much the phone will cost, but OnePlus is offering $200 off for pre-orders and up to $1,000 in trade-in credit, so it's definitely way more than that. Despite the air of mystery, the device is essentially a rebadged version of the Find N3 from Oppo, who've already allowed YouTuber Jagat Review to post a hands-on with the device, where he compares it to the Galaxy Z Fold 5. The Open seems to have a wider inside and outside display and a far more subtle hinge crease in the screen, like somebody airbrushed a butt crack, leaving only a single shiny mono cheek. What a glorious image. A judge has thrown out a 2022 decision that found Google had infringed 5 of Sonos's patents because 2 out of 5 were filed in 2019, not 2006, as Sonos claimed. Bad billion-dollar company, bad! The original decision granted Sonos $32.5 million in damages, but rather than pay licensing fees for the features, Google pushed a software update that removed the group speaker features from devices that paying customers had already bought. Consumers are basically babies, they lack object permanence.
Huh? Where'd it go? Oh, I guess it was never there.
Google, of course, celebrated the recent decision by immediately pushing another software update, restoring the features they had previously taken away, presumably causing users to clap their hands and drool in delight like a game of peekaboo.
There's the features.
It's back!
NVIDIA's Jensen Huang has topped a recent most popular CEOs survey, no doubt due to that sexy leather jacket. Can't stay mad at him. Based on a survey conducted by the professional social network Blind, over 96% of the 13,000 verified NVIDIA employees there said they approved of Huang's leadership, numbers rarely seen outside of North Korea. Tim Apple, CEO of Cook, also came in the top 5 with 83%, while the average was only 32%, with at least 2 CEOs landing at 0. I don't know exactly what's going on at Western Digital and Nordstrom, but it's not good. It involves lying, I think. Speaking of CEOs, Google's current leader, Sundar Pichai, had a fairly reasonable take on the issue of the search engine being set as the default in Safari back in 2007, according to emails revealed during the ongoing US v. Google trial. Pichai, who was part of the search team back then, thought that Apple's idea of offering 2 separate versions of Safari, one for Google and one for Yahoo, was maybe not as good as just adding a drop-down menu allowing users to switch search engines. It's nice to see a tech executive thinking about the end user experience while coordinating massive payments to have their product presented as the default. And after many Counter-Strike 2 players were inexplicably banned, Valve has warned anyone playing on AMD GPUs to switch off Team Red's Anti-Lag Plus feature, which arrived earlier this week in a driver update, until Valve can fix the issue. The feature minimizes input lag, but it does so by injecting itself into the game's code, making it look like unauthorized tampering is occurring and leading to a VAC ban. You can hardly blame players for trying to make the game smoother, although along with the lag issues, it's also brought some hidden treasures. I mean, teabagging's got nothing on twerking. And I would certainly be reading a segue about twerking if Jacob was here, but he's off today, so I'll simply tell you to please return on Monday for more tech news, please. Thank you.
Did someone say tech news? Yeah, I did. Just now. Are you paying attention? You were right there. I still love you. The US is tightening its export restrictions on advanced AI chips to China, as well as a handful of other countries, including Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Vietnam. Vietnam too? For crying out loud. Cut that. Specifically, they're targeting NVIDIA's A800 and H800 GPUs, variants of the A100 and H100. that NVIDIA modified specifically for the Asian market to comply with the Biden administration's restrictions on chip exports to China last October. Which is wild, because this October is right now, making last October exactly a year ago. So it took nearly an entire calendar year to close a loophole that obvious. The Cayman Islands, though, they still got that one. Previously, consumer graphics cards were largely unaffected, but the new rules also restrict sales of NVIDIA's RTX 4090, currently the most powerful gaming card available if you don't count the Blue Eyes White Dragon. Technically, vendors can still apply for special licenses to sell these GPUs, but it's not clear how likely the government is to grant them. Companies will also be required to inform the US government before selling chips below the restriction threshold in case somebody decides to, I don't know, buy a whole bunch of slightly inferior chips and then jury-rig them together into a monstrous Frankenchip yearning for love and acceptance in a world that fears and misunderstands it? Google Glass may be gone, but the glass holes are back. That's right, with the release of the Meta Quest 3, grown adults with money, not me, have been wearing their fancy new face computers into public, using the device's low latency pass-through mode that allows them to navigate their surroundings without running into walls. But that's half the fun. While that's obviously fine if you're just taking your $500 skull accessory on a walk through the park, it raises obvious privacy concerns when random tech bros are exploring the wonder of AR by recording banal interactions with identifiable service workers and posting it on the internet. Sorry, Stacy, who works on the Starbucks on 5th and 7th. And that's a problem that will only get worse next year, with the coming release of Meta's far more subtle Ray-Ban smart glasses, which early reviews have called a privacy nightmare. The smart glasses have
4 out of 5.
Hey Meta AI, what's that sound? It's Joshua pooping. The smart glasses have the obvious advantage that they don't make the wearer look like a lost Martian tourist, but the more pressing disadvantage that they portend a future where literally any douchebag in designer shades might be secretly recording you. Who says they aren't already? Check your toilets. Following a string of rumors, many anticipated that Apple would announce new iPads with refreshed chips on Tuesday. Instead, they were not met with iPads, but the third product to bear the name Apple Pencil. No doubt as punishment for daring to try and get a glimpse behind Tim Apple's curtain.
He showered.
You're coming into my boudoir? I didn't give you permission. But a glimpse of Apple's reasoning would be nice to help the new $80 pencil make sense. It charges exclusively through a USB-C port hidden under a slider on its butt. But it's much better than the first-gen pencil's accident waiting to happen design. But it can still attach magnetically to the newest iPad Pros and Airs, just not to the 10th gen base model iPad, thanks to Apple suddenly deciding that cameras go on the long side now. And it's the cheapest Apple Pencil, but it's not compatible with the cheapest iPad in Apple's current lineup, the 9th gen. It also doesn't have pressure sensitivity, support for double tap gestures, and you can't even engrave it, for Christ's sake. What if I want to send one to my mom that says, "I love you, Mom, here's the third Apple Pencil"? But none of that really matters for a big enough chunk of Apple fans who'll just buy the new one and ask us why it's not charging magnetically after. As for actual iPad refreshes, those will probably arrive in the spring or summer, maybe alongside a folding iPad, which I will purchase immediately. I mean, the other ones fold if you try hard enough. Just the one time. Now it's time for Quick Bits, brought to you by Seasonic, the company that makes spectacular power supplies, but I'm here to tell you about their MagFlow 120mm fans today. The same fans that kept your power supply quiet can now keep your computer nice and cool. And their snappy magnetic connection system makes installation simple. Guess you could say I'm a huge supporter of the MagFlow. If you want your rig to be cool in more ways than one, you can get an individual MagFlow or start chaining them together in a 3-pack by checking out the link below. Can you say Quick Bits? No, you can't, because you're not hosting this video. I am. I get to read them. And no one can stop me, not even the editor. He won't cut me off. I'm gonna keep. New York legislators have proposed a new bill that would require a criminal background check to buy any 3D printer that could theoretically print all or part of a firearm, which, fortunately, is most of them. Gun Digest recommends the Creality Ender 3 V2 or the Prusa i3 MK3S Plus, both of which are bedslinger-style FDM printers, the cheapest, most common kind of 3D printer. So if you're a New York resident with a felony conviction and a Warhammer addiction, this could seriously cramp your style. I mean, unless you like the visits from hot policemen. Put the printer down! AMD has released a new beta driver which disables its Radeon Anti-Lag Plus technology in all supported games after the feature and its predecessor, Anti-Lag Non-Plus, led to a wave of player bans in CS2, Apex Legends, and COD. Unfortunately, AMD recommended using anti-lag to decrease latency caused by their fluid motion frames after enabling that in all DX11 games. It's like if your friend told you that the best way to get promoted at work was to find the most powerful person and punch them in the face. And all that did was make Linus angry. Qualcomm, in collaboration with Google, has announced development of the first ever mass-market RISC-V Android SoC. Google announced RISC-V software support for Android OS late last year. Now Qualcomm are developing a yet unnamed RISC-V Snapdragon SoC for wearable devices to act as the necessary hardware. If successful, this could present a serious competitive threat to ARM, as RISC-V's open source architecture means it can be both cheaper and more flexible to implement. My arm's pretty flexible. Don't ask me about my legs though.
Touch my toes. I can also touch your toes.
ARM is already suing Qualcomm over license fees and losing ground to RISC-V in China due to export restrictions, as if these companies needed anything else to make Thanksgiving more awkward. Frickin' China! ARM, stop talking about China around the table. The IRS is advancing a pilot program that will allow residents in 13 states to electronically file their tax returns directly with the IRS in 2024. The pilot is a response to a long-standing issue going back to 2001, when the IRS partnered with tax preparation companies to offer taxpayers with simple returns a free alternative for filing their taxes. Those companies then made those free alternatives harder to find than a reason to get up in the morning. Or a reason to go to bed at night. Why is it both? When the IRS banned them from doing that, both H&R Block and Intuit, the makers of TurboTax, left the agreement. Intuit has been lobbying against direct filing for over a decade, arguing that free alternatives are already available, which they are, you're just never going to find them. And I'm going to stay in bed late. Slimbook and Fedora Project announced a new Linux-optimized laptop, the Fedora Slimbook, so named after Fedora Slim, a hard-boiled private detective who is also the Marlboro Man. Yeehaw! The laptop comes with a 12th gen Intel Core i7 12700H processor, an RTX 3050 Ti graphics card, up to 64 gigabytes of RAM, a 4 terabyte NVMe SSD, and a 16-inch 3K 90Hz display. The device comes loaded with software from Linux distribution Fedora, which is an absolutely wild coincidence, and features the GNOME desktop environment. Slimbook will be donating 3% of the revenue from the Fedora Slimbook to the GNOME Foundation, which provides end-of-life care for elderly garden gnomes. Rest in peace, Papa Smurf. You will be missed. And nobody will know if you don't come back for more Tech Linked on Friday, but I'll still feel it in my heart.
My little red hat.
First Papa Smurf and now this? Why would you do this, Jerry?
りだもん。
Intel just unveiled Puma, a photonic chip that sounds less like a real thing and more like an April Fool's joke from the time before most tech companies decided that was cringe. Razer didn't get the memo. I'm Riley Murdoch, this is TechLinked, and you might want to sit down as I tell you that the prototype CPU Intel showed off at Hot Chips 2023 is based on a custom RISC architecture with 8 cores and 66 threads per core, for a frankly offensive 528 total threads. Whew. Wow. Modern x86 CPUs usually only have 2 threads per core, but that hasn't always been the case. Intel's old Xeon Phi could do 4 threads per core, IBM's Power 8 could do 8, and Sun's Spark chips thought they were fancy, going up to 16. But adding threads makes each thread weaker, and a ton of weak threads wouldn't benefit most workloads today, except for the petabyte scale workloads Intel has designed this CPU to tackle with its 1 terabyte per second of data throughput and optical interconnects between chips so they can be connected together in 8 socket server sleds that in turn connect to each other to create Sam Altman's wet dream.
Pam Anderson, what are you doing here?
She's like made of silicon. iFixit is taking the right to repair fight to McDonald's, because everyone deserves a burger with all the fixins. No, the target here is McDonald's notoriously unreliable ice cream machines. iFixit bought and tore down one of the machines, which aren't terribly complex. The problem is that they're prone to overheating. Not ideal in an ice cream machine, and their error codes are just simply baffling. Employees have tried to read the effing manual, but the manual appears to have been written by an infinite number of chimpanzees with a grudge against the working class. The machines are built and must be repaired by Taylor, which is either an ice cream machine company or a 19-year-old sorority sister. Taylor is infamously slow to respond to repair requests, probably because she's so busy with cheer practice. Is this based on a personal experience of yours, Jessica?
No.
Okay. Despite that, 25% of Taylor's profits come from service technician callouts, which cost $315 per 15 minutes of work. That's like $1,200 an hour. Franchisees would obviously prefer to work with a cheaper, more responsive repair service, but the DMCA is what allowed Taylor to put in a digital lock that prevents anyone else from getting in there. So now iFixit is petitioning the Copyright Office for an exemption that allows third-party repair workers to fix these machines and for Congress to fix the DMCA in general, because working at McDonald's is already punishment enough. YouTube will be changing its community guidelines policy so that creators can get violation warnings removed from their channel if they complete an educational training course. The course is intended to explain YouTube's content policies and help creators avoid future infractions, kind of like sensitivity training for live streamers, which many of them desperately need. If creators complete the course and go 90 days without violating the same policy again, then the warning will be lifted. Prior to this change, that one-time warning would simply stick around forever, increasing the risk that if a creator accidentally fell afoul of the rules again years in the future, it might lead to a formal strike against the channel. According to YouTube, more than 80% of creators who receive a warning never violate their policies again. And I guess they think that last 20% are repeat offenders because they simply didn't know being racist is bad. No one told me. But not every flagged video deserves it. Due to the sheer scope of YouTube, its sometimes nebulous guidelines, and its limited number of human content moderators, it's unfortunately easy for videos to get inappropriately flagged as inappropriate. If that happens, at least the falsely accused will have the opportunity to think about what they haven't done. Now it's time for Quick Bits, brought to you by Enlisted, the most historically accurate World War II multiplayer shooter. Enlisted is available on PlayStation, Xbox, and PC, so everyone can take part in the action that traumatized their ancestors. Battle through several different campaigns from World War II and work with your team to strategize to achieve victory. With large-scale battles and destructible environments, Enlisted strives for full immersion without all the pesky PTSD. Head to the link below and start playing Enlisted for free. You'll also get a free bonus just for signing up. You know, just when I thought the bits couldn't get any quicker, and there they go. So it's like, wow, get out of the way. They don't stop for people. In a spot of good news for people who like smartphones that fit in normal-sized hands, ASUS has declared that the rumors of the Zenfone's demise have been greatly exaggerated. The company says they have a strong commitment to their smartphone business and even potentially teased a Zenfone 11 release in 2024. So maybe we can finally get Riley to stop crying. I did, just in time to film this.
Thank God!
Elon Musk live-streamed a demonstration of Tesla's updated full self-driving beta, which, impressively, uses only cameras and algorithmic intelligence, rather than also relying on other sensors like LiDAR and radar, which they removed from the cars. During the demo, Musk sat in the driver's seat, filming on his cell phone and interacting with commenters in violation of automated driving policies put in place by none other than Tesla. At one point, the car attempted to accelerate through a red light, requiring Musk to look up from his phone and intervene. So inconvenient. Police will not be issuing a ticket for distracted driving because despite the thousands and thousands of witnesses, if it doesn't happen in front of the police, it doesn't count. Google is launching Duet AI for Workspace, which is basically Microsoft's Copilot AI for Microsoft 365 in both function and price, but you get to choose which multi-billion company gets your money. After the free trial, Duet will cost $30 per month per user for large organizations, which is exactly how much Microsoft charges. However, there's no word yet if Duet will be able to sing the share part of I Got You, Babe at your company's annual karaoke night. It's the only thing I would really use it for, so I don't see the point right now. The FBI announced they were able to dismantle and destroy the Quackbot botnet, a network of infected computers responsible for worldwide ransomware attacks and other cyber crimes. The FBI-led Operation Duck Hunt, that's real, identified 700,000 infected computers worldwide and disrupted it by tricking those computers into downloading an uninstaller from FBI servers, which must have come packaged with a GIF of the Super Nintendo dog laughing in your face. But actually, I think that would require the FBI to have the sense of humor that they inevitably lost by seeing what you all do in front of your webcams. I used to love spying on the populace, and now?
I didn't even know you could do that with a cantaloupe.
And after nearly a year of waiting, Meta's virtual avatars finally have legs. The beta for the new limbs will roll out in Quest Home over the next few weeks, but not in Horizon Worlds, where players will continue to resemble a levitating Lieutenant Dan, but with significantly less existential angst. There are still a few issues to buff out. For example, you can see your avatar's legs if you look into a virtual mirror, but not if you look down at your own hovering virtual torso. It's all in your head, man. Your reflected avatar also doesn't track when you crouch. Instead, the camera just sinks about a foot and leaves you staring at your own digital belly button, which, honestly, I've wanted to do my whole life. It's so hard. That sounds weird. And all this after only 11 months of development. Truly, we live in an age of wonders. The developers wanted to work on the feature, but Mark Zuckerberg just keeps challenging everyone to bouts of jujitsu.
With the senior devs in a rear naked choke.
You can work on that later. Come here, I want to show you something. And it would be truly wonderful if you came back on Friday for another episode of Tech Linked. If you don't show up, we don't really have anything to do. So please clear your schedule because it's lonely in here. AMD unveiled 2 new Radeon graphics cards at Gamescom today, but embarrassingly, seem to have forgotten to make them offensively overpriced. I'm Riley Murdoch, this is Tech Linked, and this might be bad news for NVIDIA. When you compare the new $450 RX 7700 XT to the $500 RTX 4060 Ti 60GB, and the new $500 RX 7800 XT to the $600 RTX 4070, the new Radeons do better in rasterized games and even some ray-traced games, at least according to neutral, unbiased benchmarking outlet AMD.
Check out AMD's apples.
I wouldn't
laugh, please.
AMD also announced they're launching FSR 3.0 on September 6th, bringing along a new performance-enhancing frame generation technique they call fluid motion frames, which sounds like my video games will now come with more interpretive dance, which makes me so happy.
Do a waterfall.
What is a waterfall? It's like...
It's a geological structure.
Okay. Now, while you might not believe Team Red's pretty little pictures, Team Green just might, since YouTuber Moore's Law is Dead claims that a price drop for the 4060 Ti is on its way to better compete with the 7700 XT. After all, both new Radeons will come with a free copy of Starfield, the game that AMD claims could totally support NVIDIA's DLSS if Bethesda wanted to add it. AMD won't say what would happen to the developers' families if they did this, but hey, it's a free country. Sony officially unveiled the PlayStation Portal, the product formerly referred to by the codenames Project Q and an absolute joke. A $200 price tag has now been confirmed for a device that allows you to play games on your PS5 through remote play, something your phone and various other devices do, and nothing else. The handheld doesn't even support Bluetooth, something your phone also does, but the Portal does have a 3.5mm audio jack. So odds are it's 1 for 3 against the pocket computer you use to doom scroll pictures of your ex. Ugh, if you must use wireless audio, great news. The Portal supports PlayStation Link, the proprietary wireless tech used exclusively by the new $150 PlayStation Pulse headset and the matching $200 earbuds. Sony probably also wants to capitalize on their recent acquisition of high-end headphone maker Odyssey, and what better way to do that than by creating a walled audio garden for a device that looks like it was jerry-rigged by a high school electronics club. Got 'em. Now add the fact that Qualcomm just announced 3 new Snapdragon chips designed specifically for handheld gaming devices that support both lag-free local and cloud game streaming, and it starts to make even less sense to spend $200 just so you can still play PS5 while mom's on the TV watching her soaps.
Why would you watch soaps?
Watching her soaps. To make sure they don't move. Multiple details regarding Intel's upcoming 14th Gen Core processors have leaked because sometimes companies don't want to announce their own disappointing products. Instead, we have MSI and Twitter user DarkmonTech to thank for the news of the underwhelming Raptor Lake refresh. MSI made the mistake of posting a product training video to YouTube and marking it as unlisted instead of private, allowing Darkmon Tech to find the video using the power of throwing numbers and letters together and seeing what links work?
The numbers, Mason. What do they mean?
That's my joke from later.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If that's how he did it, I'm frankly impressed. According to a slide shown in the video that's helpfully labeled NDA, do not share, the performance uplift from 13 Gen chips will be on average about 3%, which is not how I like my CPU improvements, but it is how I like my milk. 3.25% to be exact.
Round down.
Also known as homo milk up here in Canada. The slide did also say the Core i7-14700K is 17% faster than the i7-13700K in multi-threaded applications due to it, spoiler, having 4 more efficiency cores. Why is that?
Cause now we know before it launches, Riley.
That number is consistent with engineering sample benchmarks leaked by a Bilibili creator who goes by a name I will almost certainly not pronounce correctly. I don't know Chinese. I mean, I barely understand tech. I know a lot about milk.
Now it's time for Quick Bits, brought to you by Keeper, the trusted, secure password manager that generates and stores strong passwords for you. Because using the same password for everything just makes it easier for cybercriminals to leak all those photos you took of animals in human clothes. Everyone goes through phases. Thankfully, Keeper is encrypted end-to-end, so you never have to worry about your phases being public knowledge. Keeper even autofills your login info and 2FA codes on both mobile and desktop, so you can skip all that typing and get straight to browsing all those pictures of boa constrictors and sweaters. Save 50% on personal and family plans at the link below, using the code TechLinked50.
These quick bits have been cooling on the windowsill for a week, so you kids should just go to town on them. Just eat up, get strong. Also at Gamescom, Nvidia unveiled the newest version of its DLSS tech featuring ray reconstruction, which promises to enhance ray-traced images better than traditional denoising.
And rebuild Ray better than he was before.
Even better, unlike DLSS 3.0's frame generation, which can only be run on RTX 40 series graphics cards by rich and financially irresponsible people, ray reconstruction works on all RTX GPUs. It's even more great news for Ray. Now, it doesn't make sense to me that someone using DLSS 3.5 might not have at least as many features as someone using DLSS 3.0, but I might feel better after I ask Mason what the numbers mean. Researchers are using sensors implanted in the brain and AI-powered software to allow 2 paralyzed women to speak directly with their minds, Professor X style. While one of the volunteers can't speak due to ALS and the other experienced a stroke, they both still remember how to talk. The implants in their cerebral cortex then take the neural activity associated with speech and translate that into accurate text at a rate of over 60 words per minute, allowing them to hold a relatively normal conversation, if by normal conversation you mean robo-telepathy, which I often do. YouTube is getting Google Assistant's hum to identify a song feature with an upgrade. Instead of needing 10 to 15 seconds, YouTube's version can work with as few as 3 seconds of humming. But you have to hum hard. Meanwhile, YouTube Music's live lyrics are finally widely rolling out on Android and iOS, which may cause people to hate the app slightly less. Although that goodwill will certainly be canceled out if YouTube is testing serving ads to premium subscribers, as indicated by this post on the LTT subreddit, where absolutely everything is fine. Zoom is requiring all employees within 50 miles of the office to return to in-person work at least 2 days a week. In a leaked recording, the CEO of Zoom blamed Zoom, saying that limiting meetings to video calls makes it hard to build trust, and it undermines constructive debate because everyone's just too darn polite on a Zoom call.
And it's always fighting against the Flash.
Professor Zoom joins every call. Get out of here! Personally, I don't blame Zoom for not liking Zoom. It's gotta be hard managing a company with the haunting knowledge that there are subordinates that you've literally never talked to while they were wearing pants. That was a good one. Nice one, Jessica. And speaking of countries where people might be confused by that last sentence, a UK court has found that an Oxford teen was part of the international cyber gang Lapsus, the group responsible for multiple major tech hacks. The jury heard how 18-year-old Aryan Kurtaj helped hack Nvidia after being arrested and released under investigation for another hack. Then, after being re-arrested and doxxed by rival hackers, Kurtaj was moved to a Travelodge hotel. the most secure hotel they had, while on bail, where he then hacked and leaked unfinished Grand Theft Auto 6 gameplay using an Amazon Fire Stick. It just gets better and better. Embarrassing developer Rockstar by both hacking them and making every GTA mission they've ever written sound lame as hell.
Apparently kicking
Wow.
themselves they didn't come up with that.
Jeez. That was one hell of a DLC. But it won't be lame of you to come back on Monday for more tackling. Unlike those jerks over at GameLinked, we wouldn't lie to you about when our next video will drop, except when we did that last week.
You're going on vacation to Lake Laogai.
What?
You still haven't seen Avatar: The Last Airbender, you
Lake Laogai? Microsoft announced a generative AI feature called Copilot for, I think, the 4th time? At their September 21st event, which they aptly named the September 21st event. Yet they neglected to invite Earth, Wind, and Fire. What? I'm Riley Murdoch, this is TechLinked, and you could actually use Copilot for Windows 11 on September 26th, the same day that Cyberpunk 2077's Phantom Liberty expansion comes out. Now, do you play with that? Or your new Microsoft-assigned mandatory best friend? They're not happy about it either. After announcing GitHub Copilot, Microsoft 365 Copilot, and Windows Copilot back in May, this new Copilot for Windows, with a fancy new logo, is as significant as the PC was to the 80s, the web in the 90s, mobile in the 2000s, and cloud in the 2010s, said Microsoft CEO and totally unbiased person, Satya Nadella. He has zero biases. He's like the gray people from Futurama. And while we know that Copilot is available now to Windows insiders, we don't know when OpenAI's newly announced DALL-E 3, which will be integrated into a number of Microsoft products, will be available. But it sounds exciting. OpenAI claims the updated image generator has gotten better at listening more carefully to every word in your prompt, not just the least boring ones. Illustrated in this example image of Little Red Riding Hood bartering with steampunk Wilford Brimley.
Would you like to buy a diet treatise?
A diet treatise?
Yeah, it's a treat.
And DALL-E 3 will be able to generate text, as illustrated by this depressed avocado talking to its natural predator, a spoon. DALL-E 3 will be coming to Bing, so you can contextually update your prompts to create amazing, completely novel images, like brown-haired people putting on helmets. How do you...
Eat your heart out, Starfield.
I didn't even know that could be a thing. Microsoft also announced updates to their line of Surface products. There's a sequel to the Surface Laptop Studio, a revolutionary device that dared to ask the question, what if a MacBook Pro was also an iPad? For those looking for a more affordable device, the Surface Laptop Go 3 keeps costs down by stopping at, what if a MacBook? I'm kidding, of course. The Laptop Go 3 has a touchscreen, so for anyone doing business and no one else. The Surface Go 4 for Business features a new processor inside the same body as the Go 3, and there's also a new Surface Hub 3 that features new hardware upgrades and can be purchased as an entire unit, or a modular little cute little pack that can be inserted into existing Hub 2S models.
And if you use either of those for pleasure, we will hunt you down.
It's for business. Yes, we pre-installed Candy Crush. You're not supposed to open it. And that's it, which is apparently why former Surface lead Panos Panay left. Microsoft started cutting staff and pulling back on more experimental devices like the Surface headphones and the Surface Pro X, which I'm sure some people wanted more of. Panay is now allegedly being hired by Amazon to replace their retiring hardware chief, Dave Limp. If you're wondering why he's retiring, his original name was Dave Normalwalk.
Before he was married, he was Dave Skips Everywhere.
Unity Technologies has revealed the updating pricing scheme they were forced to create after their first updated pricing scheme got similar critical reception to Jared Leto's seminal art piece, Morbius. It's Uniting time. And just like that one, this one got a re-release. For those unfamiliar, Unity announced they'd be introducing a runtime fee that would be charged to developers whenever their Unity-based game was downloaded, after a certain threshold for revenue and install count was reached. Under the updated scheme, Unity personal subscribers will not be charged any fees, and the revenue cap on games made with that plan will be increased from $100,000 to $200,000, which is the amount of money you make when you make $100,000 twice. little tip for you. Any Unity-made game that makes less than $1 million in a year will also not be charged the fee. Developers also now have the choice of being subject to the fee or paying 2.5% of their gross revenue instead. And Unity found the sense to not make the fee retroactive. It won't apply to games created using current versions of Unity unless they update to the new version when it launches alongside the runtime fee policy in January. Rami Ismail, one of the policy's largest critics, has given careful approval of the changes, so it sounds like Unity is doing right by the indie dev community. Fingers crossed, I mean, we'll see. Frankly, it's honestly just refreshing for a company's executive to actually say in the blog post, I am sorry. Like, that just, it doesn't happen, so well done. And now it's time for Quick Bits, brought to you by Magic Spoon. Put a spell on your taste buds with Magic Spoon's health-conscious yet wickedly tasty cereals. They have net 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, and only 4 to 5 net grams of carbs per serving. What is this sorcery? And their familiar flavors like fruity and frosted will leave you feeling enchanted. Follow the link below, conjure up a Magic Spoon variety box, and use code Linus for $5 off. I'd like to ask for a moment of silence for these quick bits. No, nothing bad happened. I just want a break from talking. YouTube announced a few AI-powered features at its Made on YouTube event, including Dream Screen, an art-generating green screen effect to compete with TikTok, which has had a similar feature for months because literally everyone somehow ships AI-powered features faster than Google, the AI company. Whatever, I'm not bothered. Generative AI tools in YouTube Studio will soon help creators spark video ideas and draft outlines personalized for their specific channels, generate translated audio dubs of their videos, and they can find backing songs simply using a description of the video, which in our case would probably bring up a ton of songs about clicking affiliate links. What do you want down there?
Go to Amazon, it's the place to shop.
They didn't pay us for that. Microsoft may finally succeed in buying Activision Blizzard King, according to reports. After the UK blocked the deal from going through, the country's competition regulator now says the new deal has addressed their previous concerns by agreeing to sell Activision's cloud gaming rights to Ubisoft, who will be free to port cloud versions of Activision Blizzard games to any platform. They're just like roped in a random other developer and be like, will you do the cloud? Okay, fine, I'll do the cloud games, whatever. The deal hopes to close by October, so Phil Spencer should have time to give his mom the ultimate Christmas gift. Unlimited hearts in Candy Crush, because you know she's playing it. Criticisms have been levied against the build quality of the newly launched iPhone 15, and not even Tim Cook pretending to be a normal guy in an Apple store stopped them. Thought for sure that would do it.
I'm normal.
Hi everyone, it's me, Normal Guy.
Some users have claimed the 15s aren't as durable as the previous generation, and others have said the phones have uneven coloring. And when you're buying them to basically be jewelry, that's an issue. Apple has indicated that fingerprints might temporarily alter the color of the iPhone 15's titanium frame, but they didn't mention a fingernail can permanently scratch Apple's new durable, fine-woven cases. Well, there's a simple fix for that.
Buy your mom a nail trimmer.
Restricted military documents have wound up on the War Thunder forum yet again. They cannot stop. This time, the document in question is the flight manual for the Lockheed F-117 Nighthawk, including information like sensor locations, firing angles, and engine specifications. Moderators quickly deleted the thread, but this is at least the 10th time that an overheated War Thunder player has tried to prove a point by leaking sensitive military information. Why does this keep happening? National security, winning this argument with Butt Muncher 69. Stop it, just stop. Luckily, the document isn't technically classified, merely export restricted. So fingers crossed no one's getting court-martialed over this one. And a new study from the University of Colorado Boulder has broken new ground in using coffee grounds for 3D printing. Soon we may be able to reframe our crippling bean addictions into a virtuous environmental push to reduce plastic waste by mixing the dry, refined coffee grounds with xanthan gum and cellulose powders, and then using the research team's open source printer adapter to create all kinds of biodegradable doodads, even coffee cups. That sounds dangerous. Soon, all will be coffee. And coffee will be all. I don't want that.
All hail the bean.
Who summons the Bean Lord? But all we can do is ask you to come back on Monday for another episode of Tech Linked, made entirely from coffee grounds. We're gonna try it. We're gonna see how it goes. Desktop GPU sales are the lowest they've been in decades. Kids these days, they don't know how good they have it. Yet ironically, they seem to have a great understanding of inflation. I'm Riley Murdoch, this is TechLinked, and this is where the fun begins. For nerds who love numerical facts, get excited. According to a report from John Petty Research, GPU sales are about 13% lower than last quarter and down 38% from this time last year. But according to science, GPU manufacturers should want number go up, not number go down. It's taken us years to find out. And that's really where this tension is coming from. Shipments of NVIDIA cards have fallen by 15.2%, while AMD's have decreased by 7.5%.
You drop those shipments, pick them back up.
These percentages would sound delicious if we were discussing dairy products and not corporate profits. So, here we are.
That is real.
There seems to be a shakeup in desktop GPU market share as well. Milkshake? Almighty Nvidia has fallen from 86% to merely 84% since the end of last year, while AMD's market share hasn't changed. But Intel's has. They've suckled the milk from Nvidia's 2% teat and doubled their market share, rising to the peak of 4% of the market. And while that's not quite in cream territory, it would make for a rich bowl of Cocoa Puffs. Going to get some after this. Several popular third-party Reddit apps have announced they will be shutting down due to the site's upcoming API changes. Christian Selig, the creator of Apollo, the iOS Reddit app beloved by anyone who prefers their apps to not suck butt, said he would have to pay over $20 million in API fees under the new rules with very little notice. So Apollo was shut down on June 30th. The developers of Reddit is Fun and Sync echoed similar sentiments when they announced they would shut down as well.
Couldn't hold water at Sync.
Let that sink in. On top of being exorbitantly expensive, Reddit's new API rules prevent third-party apps from running ads or even showing not safe for work content, which is, let's be honest, a huge part of Reddit, r/wolves with watermelons not included. I browse that page with my family every night. It's fun for the whole family. Selig made a long post describing the situation and his reasoning for shutting down Apollo, in which he also detailed how Reddit CEO Steve Huffman had internally accused him of blackmailing the company for $10 million. What actually happened, as evidenced by Selig's transcripts and audio recording of his phone call with Huffman, was that Selig jokingly offered to sell his app to Reddit for what would amount to 6 months of its API costs, but Huffman misunderstood this as a threat. He's always on edge. Selig then clarified it was a joke, and Huffman apologized profusely, yet apparently later told others that it was blackmail. Selig's joke wasn't very good, but if you want to see a tremendous joke, check out today's AMA with Reddit CEO Steve Huffman. Someone actually asked him about the accusations, and Huffman replied, saying the real problem with Selig was how he would communicate differently privately and publicly. Naturally, Selig replied and asked for receipts. Huffman replied to that and said he must have left them in his pants when he threw them in the wash. Then Selig clarified he wasn't talking about physical paper receipts. These guys really need to learn to communicate better. Also, those last two things we said were a joke. We're not blackmailing you. And a leaked Tesla report shows the Cybertruck had serious design flaws, like, for example, not releasing in 2021. The information is brought to us by a 100-gigabyte leak given to German outlet Handelsblatt, which contained a report dated January 25th, 2022 that said the pre-production truck struggled with things like body sealing, handling, braking, and suspension, which I believe are things that cars need to grow up big and strong. The brakes were especially bad, earning a poor rating on the Society of Automotive Engineers rating scale instead of the fair the engineers were hoping for. That's not a lot of hope, is it?
Someone call Obi-Wan.
Also, the brake pedal pressure pad was still under design at least a month after the Cybertruck was supposed to originally release. So the Alpha model experienced excessive pedal travel and even inconsistent stop, which is something Jacob sometimes suffers when he starts talking.
Sounds like it was.
But it's all okay, because Tesla says they will have release candidates for the Cybertruck around August of this year, and you can take that to the bank, unlike the $100 Cybertruck deposit you put down almost 4 years ago. That's gone. Now it's time for Quick Bits, brought to you by The Ridge, the company that brought you these Quick Bits, brought to you by The Ridge. Why? I don't get it. Finding the perfect Father's Day gift can be tough, but The Ridge has made it easy with one of their biggest sales of the year. The Ridge Wallet is designed to be both stylish and functional, with room for up to 12 cards and cash, while remaining slim and compact. It's so cute. Plus, their wallets come in 30+ colors and styles, including carbon fiber and burnt Damascus. Smells nice. And for added security, their wallets are made with RFID blocking materials. Head to the link in the description and get something nice, like a Ridge wallet for your dad, or your dad's dad, or your mom. Did you know Quick Bits were originally designed as a way to slowly build tolerance to snake venom? Now, they're just 5 shorter stories, one for each failed test subject.
People died, Riley.
Don't ask any more questions. The organic life form known as Mark middle name Elliot Zuckerberg unleashed a hot new diss track about Apple's recently announced Vision Pro headset during a company-wide meeting on Thursday. According to Elliot, we're calling him now.
More like smelly it.
According to said Elliot, Apple didn't demonstrate any major technical breakthrough that Meta hasn't already explored, and that there's a real philosophical difference in how the two companies are approaching VR, because every demo that Apple showed was a person sitting on a couch by themselves. Our vision, this is Meta talking, for the metaverse is fundamentally social. It's about people interacting in new ways and feeling closer in new ways, said Mark Zuckerberg, a man who pays his employees to sit at the same table as him during lunch, a source alleged. The source was me just now.
I heard it too.
Logitech will be ending the Blue brand,
Double D, double dead.
the name under which it sells its extremely popular Sona, Yeti, and Snowball microphones. It's a name that has launched 1,000 two-man podcasts about weed, which is why it's strange that Logitech is axing the brand. That's a strong market. The mics aren't going away, of course, unless you count most of them. Blue's music and audio recording mics are absent from Logitech's site. Seemingly only the streamer-focused Yeti, Snowball, and Blue Sona have been rolled under the Logitech G brand alongside Astro headsets, which will at least retain the Astro name. Logitech G, of course, standing for Logitech Gangster.
See, it's more like. It's more like.
Yeah, oh, thank you. Yeah.
No.
Managers may be using telemetric data from workplace software to track the productivity of remote workers, even though companies like Microsoft and Slack explicitly ask them not to use the data they give your boss access to. And it may only get worse in the future. The UK's Information Commissioner's Office issued a report on neurodata and suggest that workplaces of the future may use neurotechnology to track productivity and even as a recruitment tool. So get ready to ask your friend to put his brain in a cup for you. It's the only way.
Come on, man, I do it for you.
Will I die?
No,
It's fine. Don't worry about it.
I drank like 3 beers last night. I need a replacement brain.
Summer Game Fest is in full swing with the main showcase, a Day of the Devs event, and Devolver all showing off the games you'll buy and forget you own for 3 years. Just stop. Why are you buying so many? Among the haul of announcements from Summer Game Fest was Alan Wake 2 gameplay and a new Star Trek game from Paradox, Star Trek Infinite. What does it mean?
It's infinitely good.
Day of the Devs showed off a bunch of titles and even some new gameplay from Hyperlight Breaker. Heart Machine, I like them. And Devolver showed off exactly 4 games. One of them is the Talos Principle 2, the sequel to one of my favorite games. You're just tailoring this to me. And I can sincerely say that when this game comes out, I will neglect my wife and child. I do not sign off on that. That's not.
It's true.
And the creators of Ape Out and Getting Over It, respectively the story of a gorilla-led prison break and a cautionary tale about the consequences of replacing your legs with a cauldron, don't do it, are teaming up on a game called Baby Steps, a very literal walking simulator with a fully dynamic onesie soilage system. Starring Nate, a 35-year-old man who lives in his parents' basement, but is one day magically transported to a random cavern in the middle of the woods, barefoot and in his pajamas. He must then embark on a journey of meaning by waddling around through the wilderness like a baby with an overladen diaper. And I think the main thing is that you control one leg at a time, and that's what makes it funny. Finally, a character we can all relate to. And you'll definitely be able to relate to Monday's tech news, so why not come on back and say hi? I won't hear you, but I'll feel it in all of my bones. So don't say it too loud. My bones will rattle.
Hi, Riley.
NVIDIA may be gearing up to launch an RTX 4090 Ti if leaked photos are any indication, although many are speculating that the photos might depict a new RTX Titan or perhaps another graphics card that isn't remotely worth its MSRP. I'm Riley Murdoch, this is TechLinked, and this massive cooler was first spotted in October last year and was claimed to have a cooling capacity of 900 watts, double the TDP of NVIDIA's current 4090 flagship. More than likely, however, this heatsink was a prototype for the 4090. GeForce RTX is written on it, whereas Titan cards normally say Titan as a way to differentiate between a card bought by a normal person and a card bought by someone continually looking for something to fill the endless void in their soul.
Use money to smother the sadness.
It is a money-shaped hole. Other evidence from this being a 4090 prototype is that the heatsink says RTX 4090 on it, which is it's pretty cut and dry. But here's the thing, if you're one of the many that thinks the 4080 should have been the 4070 Ti when it came out, or that the upcoming 4060 should have been a 4050, it's possible that the best bang for the buck 4090 might have also gotten a downgrade during development, and this heatsink will end up on a future 4090 Ti. We can't know, which is why we said the word might about 20 times in this story. Don't do the math. Speaking of the upcoming 4060, leaked 3D Mark tests for the card show a 23% performance improvement over the 3060 12GB version, so there's actually a chance this card could be a good deal. AMD and their partners seem to think so, since multiple Radeon RX 7600 models have been discounted days before the 4060's release. Do you see, gamers? Do you see what happens when you simply don't buy an overpriced product like the 4060 Ti? Oh, I'm getting a transmission from the future. The RTX 4090 Ti sold out on day one. Damn it! Why don't you listen, gamers? We've talked about this many times, gamers. Gamers. No one wanted Stadia to fail except everyone, so now YouTube is internally testing a new way to play online games instantly, according to an email seen by the Wall Street Journal. I mean, after Google got a taste with Stadia, they couldn't just cold turkey quit offering gaming services no one wants. Their newest alleged foray is called Playables, and will make online games instantly playable within YouTube's website and apps, which sounds less like the next big thing in gaming and more like 2008, when your Facebook was flooded by requests from every one of your casual acquaintances to help them grow corn. I didn't help anyone. The only game mentioned in the email is Stack Bounce, in which players aim to smash layers of bricks with a bouncing ball. Sounds like my kind of Friday night, you know what I mean? While both The Verge and Polygon think it sounds like a clone of the popular Atari game Breakout, I used a radical new journalistic technique called Googling to find Stack Bounce, and it seems to be the game you see in every mobile game ad that doesn't feature Pedro Pascal. I wish. His are the best. After Stadia was retired, the service's general manager, Phil Harrison, did say Google wasn't giving up on gaming, and that Stadia's underlying tech could make its way to Google services like YouTube. What Harrison didn't say was you'd now be able to play all of the shovelware games that advertise on YouTube without leaving the website. Finally, a convenient new feature for the lowest common denominator. We need more of those. There's not enough stupid things. And Microsoft has made some lofty claims while defending themselves in court, since the FTC simply will not let them be. In a legal filing arguing that Nintendo should be considered part of the high-end console market, questionable, along with the Xbox Series X and PS5, Microsoft argued that both Xbox and PlayStation offer cheaper consoles priced similarly to the Nintendo Switch. Microsoft brings up the Xbox Series S and the PS5 Digital Edition, while also saying Sony is expected to release a PlayStation 5 Slim later this year at a $400 price point. This is probably a reference to the PS5 console with a detachable disc drive that was first reported on back in September of last year. It's so kind of Microsoft to help their rival Sony announce their products.
Oh, so sweet.
We fight sometimes, but maybe don't believe everything Microsoft says, because that same legal filing says Sony is set to release a handheld version of PlayStation 5 later this year for under $300. If that is a reference to Sony's already announced Project Q, either Sony vastly undersold Q during its announcements and we're about to get a wonderful surprise, or Microsoft is throwing whatever legal arguments they can at the legal argument wall to see what sticks. It's mostly gum on there.
Yeah, a little bit of spaghetti.
The high school kids love that wall. I'm sorry, everyone. It's probably the latter case, after Phil Spencer said during the hearing that Microsoft bought Bethesda to prevent Sony from making Starfield a timed exclusive for the PS5. And he said that Sony uses the 30% cut on any Microsoft game sold on PlayStation platforms to help fund strategies to, quote, reduce Xbox's survival on the market, by presumably doing harmful, bad things like offering competing products and services. I mean, when you think about the fact that poor Microsoft only gets a mere 70% of Microsoft games sold on PlayStation, as opposed to the 100% they get when selling on their own platforms, it really starts to make sense why the $2.5 trillion company is losing the console war. Donate today. Now it's time for Quick Bits, brought to you by Brilliant, a hands-on and interactive way to learn STEM topics. Brilliant offers thousands of lessons with new topics to learn each month, like their computer science fundamentals course. After all, if you don't understand the basics behind a problem, where to even start your troubleshooting? The legal argument wall? Their services can be used to supplement a college education, or you can use it if getting smart and correcting all the bad and wrong people in your life is just a passion of yours. The first 200 people who head to brilliant.org/techlink will get 20% off an annual premium subscription. So do that. Hey, eyes up here. I'm more than just tech news, okay? I'm a person.
Not a piece of meat.
Well, I am that, but. The cost for NASA to collect exotic sand is ballooning, according to, well, NASA. The Mars Sample Return mission is meant to pick up the samples taken by the Perseverance rover over the last 2 years and transfer them back to Earth for study. The cost estimate, however, has jumped from up to $4.4 billion in 2020 to up to potentially double that amount. Ooh. There are multiple factors to this. Costly mistakes made by the Jet Propulsion Laboratories, updated sample retrieval plans to ensure collection if Perseverance has died by the time the mission launches, and worst of all, inflation. And we're not talking about the balloons that are used by the rover at some, I'm assuming there's balloons.
Don't Google it.
Because not even robots in space can believe the price of a loaf of bread these days. The CEO of Google's DeepMind told Wired that their next generation model, Gemini, will be more capable than ChatGPT, without saying in what way exactly. Like, will it stop making things up about me and emailing them to my friends and family because I'm not sure that was supposed to be a feature?
Can it juggle?
Gemini will combine the powers of a large language model with the kind of reinforcement learning techniques that, quote, helped AlphaGo defeat a Go champion in 2016. Which would be impressive if a human hadn't just beaten one of the top Go playing AIs last year. Google, please, just test this one before you demo it. That was embarrassing. Meta has launched a new Meta Quest Plus subscription service, joining the exclusive ranks of PlayStation Plus, Apple TV/fitness/other things Plus, Disney Plus, and many, many more. The word plus, basic math's way of saying this, but more so. For $7.99, subscribers will receive 2 games every month, 2 specific titles that Meta chooses for you. July's titles are rhythm game / first-person shooter Pistol Whip and video game about playing a video game Pixel Ripped 1995. August's titles, however, will be Walkabout Mini Golf and Mother Gunship Forge. And I desperately wish I was the kind of person who would enjoy all of those games equally. They must be so happy. UK police are blaming a recent Android update for an uptick in emergency center butt dials. One new feature automatically dials emergency services when the power button is pressed 5 or more times, something that can be accidentally accomplished while trying to dig out a particularly pernicious wedgie. Did you think about that, UK police? Or, as the British call it, wedgie. But in the accent. Wedgie. Wedgie. The feature was already available on Pixel phones, but there's been a major increase in British butt cheeks unknowingly dialing 999 now that the feature is available on all Android devices. A Google spokesperson said that device manufacturers will address this issue shortly, and that users that continue to experience this issue should switch emergency SOS off for the next couple of days. So, if you're looking to commit a crime somewhere in Britain in the near future, here's your chance.
Arson, arson, arson.
And Amazon is recruiting small businesses to help deliver packages throughout the US, including coffee shops, clothing stores, and florists, because that's what your local grocer/bookstore/U-Haul depot needs. Another side hustle. These are intended to be last-mile delivery outposts, which receive packages from larger distribution centers and drop them off at customers' doors. Amazon didn't say exactly how much it will pay per package, but they did say that they expect partnering businesses to make around $27,000 a year, delivering an average of 30 packages a day. So, with the power of grade school math, we can determine that they will be paying around $250 a package. The other option available to them was to raise delivery driver wages in order to attract more delivery drivers instead of paying random florists to deliver packages, but honestly, I see where they're coming from. It's a hard situation. And I'll see where you're coming from if you come back for another episode of TechLinked on Wednesday. How will I see where you're coming from? I'm a really good hacker. Okay, I can hack stuff. I'm big into hacking. Google is preparing to launch a high-end laptop project called Chromebook X. It's like Malcolm X, except for the everything about it except the X. I'm Riley, this is TechLinked, and this branding is similar to some Microsoft products, like the Xbox Series X and the Surface Pro X tablet, X being arguably the coolest letter in the alphabet. Z is up there.
W? No.
At least they didn't go with Ultra, not a letter. Now, however, the Chromebook X program will allow Chrome OS devices from third-party manufacturers that meet elevated hardware requirements to receive additional features and special branding marketing them as a Chromebook X. Although I'm not sure how many laptop companies will be eager to brand their products as a perfectly acceptable laptop for children and seniors, but better.
The X stands for extra adequate.
Extra just okay. Also somewhat confusing is Google's apparent plans to equip these Chromebook X's with AMD Zen 2 Plus or Zen 3 chips, as well as Intel 12th Gen Bria and Nissa N-series CPUs, which are on the mid to low end of the power spectrum. Not exactly chips you'd expect in a laptop with such a cool letter in its name. But Google is more about software, so the Chromebook X's special features include, apparently, live caption for calls, a portrait blur option, and voice isolation tech. Mind, these are less special features than they are regular features that a standard Chromebook can't run without straight through the bed.
That's pretty powerful though. Like, I can't even that strong.
Twitch is replacing its mature content toggle that allows users to enable and disable adult material with a more informative system of content classification labels. Now, instead of simply marking the stream as mature, streamers can specify the exact kind of depravity they intend to broadcast, be it mature-rated video games, intoxication, violence, sexual themes, profanity, gambling,
Conversation.
going outside. Question. If you manage to hit every single content warning in one stream, do you get a prize, like in bingo? Streamers that fail to correctly label their streams will not be banned, but will receive an email warning. After multiple warnings, their channel may be locked for a period of days or weeks. If you get a bingo in front of an audience of under-supervised 12-year-olds, the punishment is an extended opportunity to touch grass. Ah, there it is. The change is an interesting quality of life measure coming at a time when Twitch is losing several of its top streamers. The most viewed streamer, XQC, signed a $100 million non-exclusive deal with Kick last week, and now hot tub queen Amaranth, who Kick paid an undisclosed amount to apparently begin streaming herself and her friends showering. Twitch actually lost another prominent streamer this week, not to Kick, but to Burnout. Former pro Fortnite player Turner Tfue Tenney has retired at the age of 25 after 8 years as a Twitch partner, citing the stress of daily, hours-long live streams. Many creators have criticized Twitch's high requirements to maintain status, contributing to a culture of burnout and overwork. XQC, the poster boy for just insane streaming schedules, celebrated his 2-year deal with Kick by flirting with a ban, immediately violating the DMCA policy by streaming The Dark Knight. He's the hero Kick deserves, but not the one it needs right now.
Where are the other drugs going?
It's just making things more complicated.
Where are the other streamers going?
Swear to me!
And while most of the subreddits protesting Reddit's new API pricing have reopened, many are still registering their disapproval by labeling themselves as not safe for work, which adds an age gate on desktop, requires app login to view on mobile, and prevents ads from being run on the subreddit. This follows an earlier wave of subreddits that transitioned into non-stop thirst traps featuring comedian John Oliver. Thankfully, fully pornographic John Oliver content has yet to emerge, but it's only a matter of time. Fortunately.
Give me that olive pussy.
Okay. Jeez, please.
No olive pussy.
Olive pussy. The only thing more obstinate and self-important than a moderator is an admin. On Tuesday, shortly after the users of r/mildlyinteresting voted to set it to NSFW, the entire mod team was removed and locked out of their accounts, apparently by a Reddit-employed admin. Then, following a report of the purge from The Verge, they were just as suddenly reinstated. Reddit refused to comment on whether it was behind either the removal or the reinstatement, which I, for one, think is more than mildly interesting. Post that in r/ooh. Several other subreddits, including r/interesting as r/thanks I hate it, and r/life pro tips, all of which have over 1 million subscribers, are currently unmoderated, having been hit by similar purges, making their advice even worse.
Like, pro tip, get banned.
While Reddit hasn't confirmed that they are behind the removals, they did threaten to remove mods that failed to comply last week. It's a bit like when your business partner takes a long, unexpected vacation to the Bahamas, shortly after you told the entire Christmas party you wanted him dead. Yet another protest strategy was employed by at least two subreddits, r/March Against Nazis and r/Political Humor, which made all members moderators, in response to Reddit's CEO Steve Huffman calling moderators landed gentry who ignore the desires of rank and file users. Oh, don't like aristocracy, Mr. Huffman? How about anarchy? You're trying it right now. Let's...
Use Spez, first among equals.
Now it's time for Quick Bits, brought to you by...
I'm back from my vacation.
No more interrupting, not on this or any other planet. It's time to build my Quick Bits galactic empire.
With our sponsor, Paradox.
In Stellaris, I'll explore and conquer an unknown universe. Perhaps I'll allow some democracy. Or rule with an iron fist. Or maybe I'll engineer a race of beings controlled by a psychic hive mind. That could be fun. I'm definitely going to form alliances and influence other alien factions through diplomacy, strength, or espionage. But if that doesn't work, there's always the old blow up their homeworld trick. That's just me. With unparalleled possibilities, no two games of Stellaris are ever the same. Your story will be uniquely yours.
Starting on June 22nd, you can play on Steam for free.
Go conquer the galaxy.
Don't threaten the audience, Dennis. A little bit of tech news in your life. A little bit of this guy by your side. That's right. Quick Bits were inspired by Lou Bega, which is why there's Mambo number 5 of them. Please laugh. The FTC sued Amazon on Wednesday for making it trivial to subscribe to their Prime service, but a labyrinthine process to cancel, presumably by forcing you to fight a minotaur if you don't want to pay $140 every year.
It's an additional $8 a month if you want magic yarn.
The commission's lawsuit alleges Amazon knowingly tricked millions of Americans into signing up for their Prime subscription using dark patterns, a term that describes manipulative, coercive, or deceptive user interface designs, and not the sequence of increasingly problematic behavior of Flash star Ezra Miller. And they still release that movie, which is the real crime, if Twitter clips are any indication. EA has decided to split EA Games and EA Sports, it's in the game, into two distinct units. So now you have two corporate entities to hate instead of one. Also, EA Games is being rebranded as EA Entertainment, suggesting they intend to expand beyond games.
Interpretive dance?
Another Flash movie? Meanwhile, EA Sports is expanding into the courtroom because they've been sued over their upcoming college football game. Is that the title? College football game?
Yeah, it's EA College and the college football.
EA Sports, CFG. The plaintiff is the Brander Group, no E, which has deals to negotiate licensing contracts for several NCAA schools and therefore has an issue with EA Sports offering individual athletes a flat $500 fee and no royalties for their name, image, and likeness. In perpetuity?
Yep.
That's ridiculous.
Forever.
Wow. EA, you're not allowed to take advantage of college athletes. That's the Brander Group's job. DP Review, an invaluable digital photography resource, was supposed to close in April as part of Amazon's careless cuts and mass layoffs earlier this year, but oddly, the site continued publishing, even after the deadline where the site was set to go read-only. It kept going and going, well past its supposed due date, just like the yogurt in the break room fridge.
Sorry.
Apparently, this is because Amazon was instead approached by Gear Patrol, an independent tech review site, which has officially acquired DP Review as of yesterday. DP Review's editor-in-chief released a statement saying that the site will continue to operate as it was before, with all editorial coverage and site features remaining the same, and all historical content accessible. Former site editor Gannon Burgett is quoted as saying, "You figure this sort of stuff out before shutting down an entire division of your company, not in hindsight after weeks of backlash." And also, quote, Amazon. And also, quote, Link, stopping my plans.
Just let me kidnap the princess.
I'm shedding real tears for this kingdom. Marvel Studios is facing controversy for using AI to create the opening credit scene for their Secret Invasion miniseries, upsetting artists, people with taste, and possibly epileptics. I really need to smooth those out. Director and executive producer Ali Salim told Polygon he doesn't really understand how AI works, and apparently also didn't understand that the Writers Guild of America is currently on strike to protect writers against AI. So maybe throwing AI into one of the most hotly anticipated projects in a massively popular cinematic universe was a bad idea? Who can say? Fortunately, the premiere episode has a lengthy cold open, so geeky artists got to enjoy a solid 8 minutes of the show before feeling angry and betrayed. That's like a minute more than I got to spend in heaven with Stacy Carlisle when I was in 6th grade. Jacob wrote that. I wish that was true.
It's all Riley. He's lying.
Actually, it was me.
I've had deep feelings for
Stacy.
Stacy. And EVE Online has added a new feature in the form of a free add-on of Microsoft Excel. Sounds weird, but it's right up their alley. After years of being called a glorified spreadsheet simulator, both by fans and detractors, EVE Online will be officially integrating Excel into its alleged space adventure game, alleged. Now players will be able to create custom reports, graphs, and charts, yes, to better calculate their fleet DPS and manage their in-universe corporate expense accounts without having to tab out of the game like they usually would. So immersion breaking. EVE Online fans were ecstatic when the partnership was announced, and I think the rest of us can just be happy for them. And we'll be happy too when you come back on Friday for another episode of Tech Linked. I mean, not like ecstatic, you're not exactly like an integrated spreadsheet, but you know, no offense, but definitely pleased. Meta has unveiled the second version of their Llama large language model, and even better, managed not to leak it this time. I'm Riley Murdoch, this is TechLinked, and according to Meta, Llama 2 Electric Boogaloo, not the real name, is pre-trained on 2 trillion tokens, with fine-tuned models for chat apps being further trained on over 1 million human annotations, probably left over from when they programmed Mark Zuckerberg. He seems more human recently, he does jujitsu.
They've improved his model.
Meta claims Llama 2 is open source, but the open source initiative is calling BS because Meta, I was Australian for a second there. Meta doesn't allow Llama 2 licensees with over 700 million active daily users and doesn't want people using Llama 2's outputs to improve other LLMs. But even with those restrictions, most researchers and commercial users should be able to use it. And Meta has announced a partnership with Qualcomm to get Llama 2 running locally on their processors next year. Finally realizing humanity's collective dream of being able to tell your phone, "Computer, show me Elon's latest dank meme." But just like the Force, there's a dark side to LLMs being open source. A black hat hacker recently used an open model called GPT-J to release Worm GPT. which is like ChatGPT, but without ethics and with an unhealthy enthusiasm for creating malware.
Is there a healthy enthusiasm for creating malware?
You know, I was just gonna say, everything in moderation. A cybersecurity expert at NordVPN called it ChatGPT's evil twin, and as if we didn't have enough AI stuff to worry about, now I have an image of a chatbot with a goatee in my head. It's very unsettling. Intel announced earlier this week that its NUC mini PC brand was dead, but it turns out it was only mostly dead. And Asus had the chocolate-covered miracle pill to bring it back to life. Wow. A Princess Bride reference. This is already my favorite episode. Asus will get a non-exclusive license to Intel's next unit of computing, or NUC, product designs. This will allow Asus to manufacture 10th gen to 13th gen NUC systems, and maybe even develop later designs based on Team Blue's future processors. Asus will even establish a new business unit for the NUC called Asus NUC BU, which of course is an anagram for see you ass bun, and see you as un bus, which is Franglish for I see you as a bus. I'm sorry for the last 10 seconds. I wish I could take them back. This new business unit will take over customer support and handle the designs, indicating that Asus has big plans for the NUC brand. Finally, Intel can be free to focus on its core passions, making great consumer chips and eventually getting around to launching graphics cards after years of edging. The US government is preparing a new cyber trust mark for smart devices that meet elevated cybersecurity standards, so buyers can know on site which baby monitor will quickly patch vulnerabilities and which will email your child's social security number to Russian cybercriminals the moment you turn your back.
Straight live stream to Vladimir Putin.
He wants to know. The label might be available as soon as next year, and like, say, the Energy Star certification for energy efficiency, this one will likely require products to undergo annual recertification to make sure they're up to date with current best practices, such as, in this case, well-implemented intrusion detection and not having a universal password for every single smart garage door opener you've ever sold. And yes, I'm talking about you, Nex with 2 X's. Why do you have 2 X's? According to cybersecurity experts, smart appliances like plugs, routers, cameras, and especially TVs are the most vulnerable devices in a typical home, raising the question of whether my doctor is right and I just need to get more sleep, or Elmo really is spying on me. The Cyber Trust Mark is intended to raise security standards and give users peace of mind, knowing that the next toaster they buy is definitely not a sleeper agent for North Korea. Now it's time for Quick Bits, brought to you by Vistaprint, where you can unleash your creative side and print some wicked personalized products, man. It's as simple as uploading your design, selecting your product, and checking out. You can even create your own designs with their online, easy-to-use tools. And don't worry if your artistic skills need a bit of work, because their design experts will help you channel your inner Bob Ross, painting happy little clouds in no time. From promotional materials to personalized gifts, Vistaprint does it all. Check them out at the link below and print yourself some cool swag, bro. Some might say that we don't need so many quick bits, but I just think they're quick bitter. Norway has issued a 3-month ban against Meta starting August 4th that bars Facebook and Instagram from any and all behavioral advertising based on data collection and profiling of Norwegian users. I guess Norway hasn't heard about Threads yet. Threads is free to, it's not in Europe. Oh, uh-oh. While Meta is free to continue operating in Norway, the company will be fined $100,000 for every day they fail to comply with the order, which could total over $9 million over the course of the 3-month ban. That might sound like a lot, but considering Meta made a gross profit of $92 billion last year, it's a bit like threatening to remove hundreds of spoonfuls of water from the ocean. Don't make me mad.
Don't test me.
Reddit decided to delete all users' chat history older than January 1st of this year, costing one user his first messages with his now wife. Reddit was what they did together. Continuing their string of just outstanding PR moves, Reddit also made the iOS app icon uglier and are charging users to change it back. Also, they're bringing back r/place, the pixelated canvas all Redditors can contribute to. Well, that's kind of cool. I, for one, can't wait to see all the varied illustrations of CEO Steve Huffman surrounded by phallic objects. It's probably gonna happen. Several clips showing footage of Amazon's delivery driver-facing cameras have been posted to Reddit, prompting concerns about worker privacy. The driver cams use AI to track the driver, the speed of the vehicle, and even its location data. Amazon drivers must give signed consent for their biometric data to be collected by the cameras. Presumably, drivers must also sign the waiver in blood and have it witnessed by at least one demon.
Have you met my manager, Beelzebub?
Google is disabling internet access for more than 2,500 employees in a pilot program aimed at reducing the risk of cyber attacks. The workers will still have access to Google-owned websites and Google's own internal network, if only because having thousands of employees forced to communicate written missives via Telegram and carrier pigeon would be less convenient. Employees will apparently be allowed to opt in or out of the pilot, which I feel is poor experimental design. Google should select a random sample of their workforce who get to wonder for the next few months why the only websites that are loading on their workstation are Google Drive, Waze, and YouTube. Are they being hacked? Are they about to be fired?
Is this a prank?
And millions of US military emails have been leaked, and the culprit, surprisingly, is the letter I. It's like a dark Sesame Street episode. See, the US military uses the domain extension .mil, which is only a single letter away from the country domain used by Russian ally Mali. Since 2013, a Dutch contractor managing the Mali domain has been repeatedly contacting US officials concerning millions of misdirected messages, mostly boring, routine emails, but with just a sprinkling of sensitive military intelligence, including maps, naval inspection reports, terrorism briefings, and passwords. You're emailing passwords? Come on.
We've got bigger problems here than Molly.
Yeah, this is not Mali's fault. While the military claims to block internal emails accidentally sent to a Malian address, the same contractor received an Army general's itinerary for a diplomatic trip to Indonesia as recently as this past May.
Or if you prefer, his assassination coordinates.
Don't worry, it'll all be fine so long as no one with top secret clearance misses a single key and accidentally emails Mali the nuclear codes. And we won't go nuclear if you don't come back on Friday for more tech news, but we will be a tad miffed.
Peeved.
You don't want to see that. China has said it released its very first homegrown open source operating system to reduce its dependency on American tech, which is concerning. They won't need America at all once they develop their own way to deep fry a Snickers bar.
And when they start making Joe Biden memes, oh, it's over.
I'm Riley Murdoch, this is TechLinked, and this is OpenKylin 1.0, the most recent version of an operating system first launched in 2001. According to Chinese state media, the